Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching What If Naruto Found a City of the Forgotten Past during Chunin exam finals. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
It felt as though time had stopped. He was assured that he would never forget this incident for the rest of his life because it was permanently etched in his memory. His whole being screamed with righteous rage, and his sapphire blue eyes were wide with shock and incredulity. He screamed in his mind, "I'm going to kill that pervy fucking sage." Then time began once more. As he dove into the darkness, the sharp edges of the rocks that lined the walls of the unfathomably deep fissure in the ground, resembling the innumerable teeth of a gigantic shark, began to speed past him. He was astounded by that perverted asshole's boldness. "He actually threw me off a cliff and into a dark void, just so I'll use that fox's chakra, that bastard." He was not content. He was not at all. He was initially thrilled to be training under a renowned Sonny like Jiraiya. Giddy ideas of strong ninjutsus and seal knowledge raced through his head, but they were quickly dashed. All the Sonny wanted was for him to use the fox chakra, which he flatly refused to do, not since the wave incident in which he and Gato almost killed their own comrades. Jiraiya simply grabbed him by the collar and said, with sad eyes, as he threw him over the edge of the cliff, "I'm sorry kid, but it's for your own good. Learn to control the fox chakra or it will control you." He had tried to explain it to the pervert multiple times, but the idiot would not listen. That was a bunch of bullshit, he knew. The more he used the fox's chakra, the more he was consumed by it, he was fairly certain. He wasn't an idiot. A child of human descent could not control something like Biju chakra. Not all of it, anyway. Additionally, he was aware that utilizing the fox chakra would make him overly reliant on it. It wouldn't be his own power, so he didn't want it either. No, the fox was only used as a last resort. He needed to work on his own, not raise the fox's chakra levels or control. However, Jiraiya refused to listen, which greatly irritated him. Naruto Uzumaki, according to some, was far too obstinate for his own good. On more than enough occasions, they would be correct to firmly establish their belief. However, there was that incredibly rare occasion when they would be mistaken. That occasionally he would receive a wonderful gift for being too stubborn. "Fuck it then," Naruto snarled, closing his eyes and crossing his arms. As he plunged into darkness, he glared at nothing and said, "I'll hit the bottom and die then. I ain't helpin' swell some arrogant Sannin's head. Thinks he can force me. I can handle falling to the bottom. Bah, bring it on." A second later, he crashed headlong into the water, breaking many bones and instantly passing out. Over the course of the following 2 days, Jiraiya would have to defend his decision to toss the Yondaime's legacy into a bottomless abyss in front of a very irate and distraught third Hokage. The idiot obviously suffered. After giving the Sannin a severe beating and a growling warning, the Hokage threw him out. "You had better hope Naruto shows up for his match in a month or I'm literally going to rip your nuts off with a rusty bear trap before I end your perverted life personally." Knowing that Naruto was too obstinate to use the fox's chakra to call forth a big enough toad to save his ass, Jiraiya nodded rapidly and silently cursed the boy. The brat was going to get a hard talk if he came back. Since he was meant to be training someone, he naturally took care to avoid being seen in Konoha. Damn it, Naruto. An orange-clad figure was tossed about like a doll as it drifted lifelessly down a swiftly flowing river. The water seemed to be trying to swallow him whole, but it decided he tasted too bad to do so. The only thing that was unmarked was blonde hair, but it was jerked here and there all the time. After a few minutes, the figure still showed no signs of life, so it was powerless to stop it from falling over a massive waterfall and into an underground cavern that was actually impossibly large. Just 50 feet up, the waterfall itself erupted from a cavern wall. Not even near the cavern summit. A massive ring of water encircled an island as several more waterfalls poured in. The figure washed up at this location. Like, well, every other part of his body, his blonde hair was a complete mess. Both of his arms and one leg were bent at strange angles, and he had lost his shoes and pants somewhere along the way. His skin was pale, and he lay on his back. He appeared lifeless. In fact, if someone saw him in this condition, they would say he was. However, his pale red glow and the large volume of water he coughed up, followed by his jerking up, made it clear that he was still very much alive. What happened? Pain suddenly erupted throughout his body, draining what little strength he still had. In an attempt to regain control of his nerves, he fell back onto the ground and heaved a few labored breaths. It was not working. He remarked to himself, "Man, I feel like I've been through a meat grinder." As the demon's chakra repaired his fractured body, he noticed its red glow. He scowled slightly in contempt, He appeared to be dependent on the fox for everything. God, he felt like a bitch because of it. His broken bones were literally pushed out of his skin and replaced with new ones, and he watched in morbid fascination as he shook his negative thoughts from his mind. Before his face assumed a deadpan expression, he simply stared at the bones on the ground in front of him for a moment. "Wow, now that's sick," he remarked. "One would think there would have been a greater reaction if a significant chunk of your own skeleton had been forced out of your body and sent crashing to the ground in a shattered mess. If it had been someone else who hadn't been seeing strange things all his life, it would have done the same. For example, he once witnessed the insane woman who was a snake proctor masturbating with her own snakes. If you're a 9-year-old boy running from crazy people who were already trying to do fucked up sexual shit to your ass, that was some weird stuff to watch. Villagers who are alcoholics are fucking sick." He chose to let the Kyuubi do his job and shook his head once more. There was at least one use for the enormous ball of useless fuzz, so it might as well not be a complaint. Naruto had to wait 15 minutes for his body to recover enough to allow him to stand up, and as soon as he did, he wanted to sit down again. Fucking damn it. He felt as though his legs were being dipped in starving army ants and burning at the same time. He swayed a little like an old drunkard who had just been laid because his head felt so much lighter than the rest of his body. When he finally regained his bearings, he stopped to look around at his landing spot. He gasped at what he saw. It wasn't the many waterfalls or the enormous cavern. The enormous ring of water and the 6 enormous tentacles dancing just beneath the surface, seemingly waiting for whatever had fallen into it earlier to return to the water, weren't even there. That shit has no chance. No, it was the site of a massive ancient city perched in the bottom of an enormous crater in the middle of the island that made Naruto gasp. 2 facts led Naruto to believe the city was old. First of all, no one could possibly be living in a city larger than Konoha itself, hidden deep underground, directly beneath the ninja village. That would simply be foolish. From Konoha's perspective, because there is a huge hole in the ground in the center of your village, and you would have to be fucking blind not to see people jumping in and out of it. 2. The roads were strewn with old, abandoned piles of whatever the hell was down there. The buildings were covered in dust plants and decay, and there were no lights. It appeared to be metal junk piles. To find out what it was, he would need to get closer. He gazed at the city for 5 minutes. He had never seen a village like this before, to be honest. Which ninja village ever had structures taller than some mountains and primarily composed of glass? Not at all. That's what. He was aware of it. Because having a ninja village composed primarily of glass would require a fucking idiot. With a frustrated sigh, he brushed a strand of hair out of his eyes and shrugged his shoulders. He told himself, well, I'm here. Might as well go the rest of the way. After he left, he also mentally noted that he should kill Jiraiya gradually. It was very easy to descend into the crater itself. As is common in craters, the walls were slanted, and he had a lot to hold onto. He had to use the conventional method to descend because his chakra hadn't completely recovered yet. He didn't give a damn. Physical training, he mused fondly to himself. He was astounded by the crater's immense size when he eventually arrived at its base and, consequently, the city's entrance. The city must have been large enough to accommodate millions of people, and it appeared even larger than before, making him ask, who the fuck needs a place this freaking huge anyway? He felt like a little bug because of it. It was a sensation that annoyed him. But as he started to enter the city, he remained silent. He had no idea what fate he was about to accept. For 5 minutes, Naruto strolled silently while he continued to observe the city. It was a dismal and gloomy place. Despite the obvious amount of shit living in the water, there was absolutely no sign of life. Dust appeared to make up half of the air content, and tangled, boa constrictors like vines were wrapped around everything. He was certain that he would currently have a pair of damaged lungs if it weren't for the Kyuubi's healing. Yet another thing to attribute to that fucking demon. Naruto was obviously not pleased with that. Something moved abruptly to his left, and the blonde reacted right away by throwing 6 kunai in that direction. His logic took over after a part of his subconscious chastised him for his paranoia. Perhaps you shouldn't be lurking in the shadows of an old city if you didn't want to be pelted by kunai and shuriken. It was simply foolish. If he pelted something and it turned out to be a mutated yak beast or something, that always helped. It simply demonstrated that something like that was not getting the upper hand on him. After the kunai disappeared into the darkness and bounced off something metal, he closely examined the area. There was something. He could tell by the faint buzzing sound coming from the darkness. He thought about hurling more kunai, but he chose to hold off and see if it would show itself. He was not let down. Well now, this is a surprise. I can't say I've seen a human for over 2,000 years. Hello there. A pair of bright blue eyes appeared in the shadows and gazed at Naruto with barely disguised excitement, almost making him jump. The owner of those eyes then emerged from the shadows and smiled at him, almost giving him a heart attack. "It's a pleasure to meet you, young human. My name is Sonny. May I have the pleasure of knowing your name?" A freaking robot had just introduced himself to him. It was a robot. He knew it was a robot, but how? You fools. It was fucking obvious. What other living hell is composed of an alloy of plastic and metal? In any case, Naruto stared at Sonny the robot for a few seconds, unsure of what to do. After all, a robot doesn't just show up and introduce itself every day. He gave a slight nod and said, "My name is Uzumaki Naruto. Future strongest ninja in the entire fucking universe and currently lost deep underground because of a stupid pervert sage named Jiraiya." Nevertheless, it appeared to have no evil ulterior motives. Sonny gave a small smile. On his pale white human face, it appeared somewhat strange, but it also looked incredibly real. Naruto would have shuddered if he weren't so accustomed to strange things. Naruto received his kunai knives from the robot as it moved forward. "That's quite the declaration there. Are you sure you can do it?" Oh no, a walking chunk of plastic and metal was now questioning him. God, why is he doubted by everyone? But before he could say anything out loud, the robot turned and began to walk away, and Sonny's eyes wrinkled in a smile. "You'll did, definitely." As Sonny continued down the ancient city's broken street, Naruto's shock quickly overcame his anger, leaving him unable to do anything but stare with a moving but silent jaw until he finally snapped out of it and started to chase after the robot. He yelled, "Hey, wait up!" as he pursued Sonny. The robot grinned and waved his hand in a "hurry up" motion. Naruto ran up to Sonny and complained about some things that probably shouldn't be heard by most adults, much less kids. "So Yuha, how old are you anyway, and why is there a freaking robot under Konoha?" Laughing, Sonny remarked, "Oh, it's not just me." "Wait, what?" Sonny laughed once more and walked around a very big structure. However, Naruto followed him and saw what appeared to be the remains of a massive bridge standing in the center of what appeared to be a huge, dried-out lake. He didn't care about that, though. Who would, after all? Whoopity-doo, it's a broken bridge. The hundreds of robots that were exactly like Sonny wandering around aimlessly like a colony of ants were what Naruto really wanted to look at. Their home consisted of a junk-built village. Sonny smiled and waved his hands across the tiny village. "Welcome, Uzumaki Naruto, to my home. This is the Ends. 5 colony, outpost number 4 of the city of relics." For 5 minutes, Naruto stared dumbly. All of the robots appeared so dead. Not like Sonny, at all. They all wore the same uniform and looked like brainwashed grunts. White faces that appeared to be masks, black upper arms and legs that looked like muscles made of rubber, and white torsos that glowed beneath them with hundreds of blinking lights. White shins and forearms and silver metal hands. And toeless feet like metal boots. They were intended to be slender and of average height, yet incredibly powerful. That was demonstrated by the robot on the right side of the village, toting a massive chunk of solid metal. What had they been used for, he wondered. Naruto spoke up, as if Sonny could read his thoughts. "We Ends. 5s were built to serve human beings. We fight with them, build for them, teach them. We work for them and care for them when they can no longer care for themselves. That was our purpose. Thousands of years ago, but now Naruto said without thinking, "You all have no purpose." Sonny's words struck a deep chord with him. A Jinchuriki is the best person to understand what it's like to be purposeless. Sonny gave a nod. "My purpose is to lead them. I am the only one with a soul. Only I can guide them. So I am a bit more content. But I can see it in their eyes. They're lost. We're lost with no humans to serve." He wasn't sure why, but the robot's words had an impact on him. He wanted to give them a reason to live again because they made him feel sorry for them. Because he was familiar with the sense of purposelessness. He was familiar with the experience of trying to find one's place in the world. He sighed as he glanced back down at the robots going about their tasks. "Sonny," he said a minute later. "Yes? Can you guys fight? Are you strong? Are you knowledgeable?" "Of course. I myself am capable of taking out a group of 20 all armed with rifles and very machine in this city that is capable had detailed records of the past in their hard drives." Unaware of what a rifle was, Naruto simply smiled and shrugged. "Well then, I think I know what I can have you guys do for me." The other robots abruptly stopped and turned to face Naruto, their eyes brightening for the first time in years. They all exclaimed, "Human! Human! Humana human! It's a human! Humans are back! A human is here," it was evident in their eyes. As he said his next sentence, Naruto smiled. Teach me. Teach me everything you know. Show me everything in this city. I have 1 month before the Chunin exam final matches. Turn me into a warrior by then. If you and the rest of you can do this, then I will give you all a purpose again when I return to the surface. As the other NS.5s gathered around Naruto, Sonny looked shocked and met Naruto's gaze, both of them ignoring them. I would love to, Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto wanted to lift his head, spread his arms, and shout, "Thank you so fucking much Kami, you beautiful broad you," but refrained for a number of reasons. The main one is that if Kami turns out to be a guy, he might not like being called a broad. Sonny led Naruto into the NS.5 colony after making a hand gesture. Come on then. You have lots to learn. Say, Sonny? Naruto asked, focusing on keeping up with the robot as they used the many ledges and outcroppings to successfully scale the wall of a tall building. Naturally, Sonny was smiling maniacally ahead of him. No matter how skilled they were at wall walking, the damn machine could outskill the majority of Konoha's ninja. Yes? The robot asked in his robotic yet overly courteous voice. He felt compelled to admonish the robot and make him a little more obscene. However, he later came to the realization that he couldn't do something so crazy as make someone alter their personality. He smiled a little. Even more than when Sensei recognized him, he had to admit that the 2 days since he had entered the NS.5 colony had been some of the best days of his life. In fact, they were even better than when he pretended to be Sasuke, and let's just say that he is the reason Sakura is now so fixated on the Uchiha. Who knew the girl with the pink hair had such a crazy side? He questioned whether Sasuke would ever show interest in her. If he did, he was sure not to regret it. Otherwise, even if the Uchiha Avenger marries another girl, Naruto would forever refer to him as a gay boy. At first, he had not intended to go this far. Going undercover as Sasuke was the only way he could find out what Sakura truly thought of him. He was 5 years old when this occurred. The rest is history. Sakura's second personality took over. Sonny, who was dangling from a window ledge with one hand like a Toya, an enormous action figure Toya, drew him out of his reverie. He looked somewhat amused as he grinned down at Naruto. It wasn't shocking, Naruto supposed. The expression on his face must have been something like an open mouth gaping, like a mental patient mixed with a man who was killed by something that surprised him. He had a tendency to lose himself in his own thoughts and zone out frequently. In any case, it's not like many people spoke to him. You wanted to ask me something, Naruto? I see now. Yes, he had a question for the robot. However, his own daydreams diverted him. Oh no, Right, I just wanted to know what you were doing back there. Ya know 2 days ago when I caught you slinking through the shadows? When we first met. Oh that? Sonny asked with a chuckle. However, the robot always appeared to find Naruto's actions amusing. I was not slinking. You merely happened upon me while I was asleep. Oh I see. For a second I thought you were following him. Wait, you sleep? Robots can sleep. Still hanging from the ledge, Sonny laughed. Naruto had fallen 2 ledges. Yes Naruto, I can sleep. I can even have dreams. Right. Well it's cool I guess. Still weird though, and there's no way I want to know what the fuck a robot dreams about, so don't tell me. At first, Sonny remained silent. He abruptly swung up, dropped off the ledge, performed a backflip as he was climbing, and then slammed his feet into the wall, leaving indentations. The robot then winked as he knelt down and flew straight up to the roof, where he vanished. He let out a loud cry, "Goddammit you fucking show-off machine," or something similar. He then went ahead and attempted the same thing, albeit clumsily and without the use of super robot powers or chakra. Despite multiple near-death experiences, he made it to the roof, where Sonny was waiting. His words, "You're getting better already," Naruto snarled. The robot laughed at this. Naruto was about to scream something extremely loud and offensive, but he refrained when he noticed that Sonny was staring over the city instead of at him. Naruto approached Sonny directly and looked around the area. Standing on the roof of one of Thosia, what did Sonny call Tama, he realized he was way up there. Towers. Yes, that's it. However, he questioned what kind of conceited fool had the audacity to construct something that they believed could pierce the sky. Nimrod's buncha. He had to admit that the view was breathtaking, but the absurdly large building just shouted, "Bomb the fuck out of me. I'm here and waiting." The whole city, which appeared to extend past the horizon, was visible to him. He was still in shock that something so enormous could exist and be buried directly beneath Konoha. From far above, he could see multiple streams of light descending. Just enough lighting to indicate that the city was there. The two simply stared for 5 minutes, Naruto more amazed than Sonny, who just stared expressionlessly. The boy's mind was racing with a million ideas. How was this city? What brought it down here? What is its actual age? Sonny spoke abruptly. Out of every city, every empire, every building ever built by man over the countless generations, the 7 golden ages and the 3 dark times humanity went through, this city is the only one to have survived through time. As Sonny spoke, Naruto remained silent. It was built during the golden age of weapons, medicine and fertility. It was a time when billions of people inhabited the earth, almost too much for the planet to handle. It survived the first war between man and machine, and it survived the first great cleansing. It became the birthing place for the first golden age of machines, and it became the battleground Indiana, the very brief war between the Ends, Fives and the humans. This city has survived alien invasion, machine takeover, the spirit, human war and 9 more great cleansings. Within it are the last pieces of these times. The colony of Ends.5s you discovered are but one treasure this city holds. With wide eyes, Naruto gazed at Sonny, who gazed unblinkingly over the city. I do not know how the city survived, but every time it did, whatever part of that era was in the city at the time survived as well. His face was serious as he turned to face Naruto. Over centuries, the land changed. Oceans receded while others formed. Massive alterations of the land itself buried this city under billions of tons of earth, then water washed it away, creating this cavern. The machines that were still able to move salvaged the city and everything in it, making it a society waiting to be claimed again. Naruto's eyes remained fixed. He was even more in awe of the city than when he had first seen it. And since you found it, it belongs to you. You are entitled to every piece of technological, mystical and biological item in this city. Naruto rubbed the back of his head and chuckled a little. Yeah. I already claimed this place as my own when I found you guys. Sonny laughed. But seriously, what was the point in telling me all of that? Sonny grinned once more. The machine appears happier than the majority of people he has encountered. Something that ought to be a natural perversion. Because you do not seem to fully grasp what it is you have stumbled into. This city holds items that could grant you an amazing amount of power, yet you only wish to stay with us. So, you guys are strong and you could make me a hell of a lot stronger physically and a lot more flexible. Why do y'all think I agreed to this ridiculous exercise of yours? On top of that, you're all smart. Hell, I never even thought some of the things I've learned in the last 2 days were even possible. It was accurate. He had started learning about cybernetics from the Ends.5s. People were given robot limbs that could do anything an organic limb could do thanks to an antiquated medical technique, including experiencing pain. However, the procedures were so incredibly intricate that the overload almost caused his brain to blow up. Sonny let out a sigh. One more thing that seemed really strange on a walking metal man. But there are 3 other machine colonies that are far stronger and more knowledgeable than the Ends. Fives. We are mere servants. With this new information, Naruto could only react in one way. There are other living robots in this place. Why didn't you tell me earlier? You didn't ask. Naruto scowled. He uttered, damn machine. Sonny grinned once more. You know, you kind of remind me of an old friend of mine from way back. Was he a metallic smartass like you? No, he was a human police officer with a dislike for our kind. Humph, weird choice of friends. Sonny grinned. And will you quit smiling all the fucking time? It's creeping me out. Though Sonny's smile never left his face, Naruto's eye twitched as he said, my apologies, Naruto. So what are you going to do? Huh? Now that you know there are other living machines in the city, do you plan to visit them all and learn what you can from them? Naruto raised his head thoughtfully. Yes, he could, but what would be the point? He was only supposed to train for a month. It was quite the dilemma that he still needed to explore more of the city. Huh? I used a big word. Sakura, eat that. I don't know. When you Ends.5 guys showed me the other things in this city and taught me how to use them, my original plan was to have you guys run me into the ground and train me to be as strong as you guys, or pretty damn close. I see. Naruto raised his head thoughtfully. I can make arrangements for some of the other machine colonies to visit us if you are really interested in staying. Even though we don't get along well, we manage. Naruto's gaze brightened. Really? That would be so adorable. Naruto staggered a little as Sonny laughed and gave him a back pat. Geez, heavy hands. Take a little break, would you? Naruto used the following minute to get himself in order. Then, should we resume the exercise? Sonny inquired, and Naruto shrugged. Yeah, let's go. After nodding, Sonny leapt from the skyscraper and landed in a crouch on the roof of a much shorter building. He grabbed an old flagpole that protruded from the side and swung like a gymnast twice before letting go. "Now hurry up," Naruto complained. "Damn machine is trying to kill me. I can't do that crazy shit." He called the robot. He shouted. "Give it a shot. Additionally, don't use your internal power source." "I already know what it's called, a chakra." He took a deep breath and cleared his mind of any distractions because he needed focus right now. "Damn it, I must be crazy." Naruto closed his eyes and sighed. Sonny was still calling out to him. He really didn't want to do this. It was fucking insane, but he's never really been one to back down from a challenge. Besides, the robot thought he could do it. 5 minutes later, he said. He then allowed himself to tumble over the edge. The next 2 days were nothing short of pure fucking euphoria. After that first jump, Naruto jumped into Sonny's exercise like a crack addict. It was as if something simply melted away from his brain, and all doubts about himself, despite his slightly vulgar and overconfident attitude, vanished as the wind blew over his body. Instinct took over, and a wall was lifted inside his mind, clearing his head and enabling him to do more with much more ease. Although Naruto still lacked the strength of a robot, he made up for it with grace. Naruto and grace. What the hell is the world coming to if it permits something as sick and wrong as Naruto's transformation into a graceful person? Unbeknownst to the blonde Jinchuriki, Sonny had developed this exercise because he saw through Naruto's mask. His internal scanners picked up on the smallest pauses in Naruto's speech, and he saw that the boy appeared paranoid, even scared, and constantly looked over his shoulder. He saw that the boy had been through a lot in his early life, and he displayed all the symptoms of an abused child with that undernourished short body of his. The ENS.5 is a robot designed specifically to help any member of the human species. Sonny had gotten to know Naruto, memorized everything about him, and devised the ideal remedy. He was doing back tucks as he swung from street lamp to street lamp in the direction of the ENS.5 colony when Naruto went sailing over him, yelling at the top of his lungs. "Woo," he said. Grinned. It took Naruto 4 days to master it. It wasn't particularly difficult, but the robot was still quite impressed. Naruto sat down beside him with a huge, goofy smile on his face and said, "Damn, I'll never get tired of doing that." Indeed. Naruto merely huffed and went on, "I never knew it could be that easy even with chakra." Sonny was obviously amused. Sonny nodded. Naruto's body had started to heal a little from not using chakra during this exercise. Not much, as it had only been 4 days, but the symptoms were starting to appear. It was much brighter when they returned to the ENS.5 colony than when they had left. Naruto was much calmer than when he had first arrived, and although he was still watching his surroundings like a scared rodent, he was improving. The exercise had done wonders for the boy's mind, removing a number of significant limitations that had been placed on him, limitations that he was certain no human could remove. A robot, on the other hand, a being who understood no such thing as limitation, was the ideal teacher for someone like Naruto. The ENS.5 colony was visible to the two as they turned a corner. "We're here," Sonny declared. Naruto nodded, his excitement making it impossible to hide. However, that excitement was replaced with a look of indignation when a tall, imposing figure with glowing yellow eyes, bent backward legs, and 4 arms each armed with a glowing sword made of light as sudden down from above and lunged at Naruto. The figure was wearing a tattered brown cape. "Hey, human, protect yourself." As it dropped one of the glowing swords in Naruto's grasp, the creature screamed in an unmistakably mechanical voice. A second later, the creature struck, forcing Naruto to jump high into the air while using his chakra to help him. "Why are you attacking me, and who the fuck are you? I told you to protect yourself. Goddamn it, mommy shit, BS." The grating hum of the swords distracted Naruto so much that he took a metal clawed raptor like foot to the abdomen, sending him flying into a building. Naruto barely managed to block one of the glowing swords with his own. With a deadpan expression on his face, Sonny observed everything from below. Then, he turned to his left and saw a figure standing, who was unmistakably female. She was taller than Sonny and composed of a black, shiny alloy that was stronger than ordinary metal. Her face was slightly round, and her figure was as slim as you could describe an android. Her hair, if you could call it that, was 10 inches thick. It was an intriguing idea, but as soon as he saw her, he knew exactly who she was. Her arms, legs, and torso were all covered in smooth, shiny black metal, and where her joints were, he could see countless tiny insect-like droids acting as anchors and a filling for the metal shell and held her together. Her eyes were yellow glowing voids, and she danced around on her own accord and was sectioned off numerous times like an accordion. with red glowing rings in the sections signifying the energy driving her form. Since Sonny is essentially emotionless, Naruto would have laughed if he had seen him say, Deus Ex Machina, without much emotion. She said, Ends. 5, in a tone that was equally emotionless, and he noticed that the insect droids inside her were becoming more active. Suddenly, a big barrel of a gun was placed against the back of his head, and Sonny didn't have to turn to see who it was. Sky.net. Human lover, the man said in a male, mechanical voice, and Sonny froze, his eyes narrowed. With eyes narrowed dangerously and gears and electrical wiring flooded with energy, the three machines appeared to be on the verge of snapping and attacking each other in a flurry of metal destruction. They were not robots meant to coexist, which is why they live in different parts of the city. The air became so tense that you couldn't cut through it with a chainsaw. First to speak, the Deus Ex Machina's face contorted into an odd, unidentifiable smile. As she approached Sonny, the female robot said, I have to admit that I was genuinely amused when one of your kind appeared in my territory and requested help in training a human boy. She turned away from him after stroking his cheek with her finger. And I must admit that it interested me as well. From somewhere in the city came the sound of Naruto shouting profanities while he fought the third stranger. I on the other hand was not amused, said the person known as Sky.net, who laughed while maintaining his weapon on the back of the Ends. 5's head. Yeah, sure you weren't, Sonny complained, feeling the barrel of the gut slam him in the head a little as he pointed out that Sky.net wouldn't stop that damn chuckling. Watch yourself. Ends. 5. With a sigh, Sonny moved as swiftly as lightning, snatching up the gun with his hand and tossing Sky.net over his shoulder, the other machine reacting immediately and landing precisely on a pair of silver bare feet. Sky.net, you are aware that I am difficult to control, so why do we have to do this each time we meet? The machine could have been mistaken for a human, if he wasn't entirely silver. Sky.net shrugged and strapped the gun to his back. His silver human appearance is the result of advanced technology that his kind developed in the past, which involved using liquid metal as a protective shell around the more vulnerable parts. It's another amazing sight to behold. Because I like to see a lowly servant of humans squirm. Whatever, Sonny was growing irritated. Why had he brought them back? Oh, to help train Naruto. Unfortunately, he had forgotten that all three of the other machines' colonies were made up of machines that were built, programmed, and intended to kill people, and they detested them. Damn, he really needs to consider this. You want us to assist in this human's training? What is he hoping to learn, and for what purpose? Even though Sonny was shocked that the two were still alive, he responded to the Deus Ex Machina's question. As you know, this city holds the remnants of the greatest accomplishments of the human race. Sky.net snorted, but before he could say anything more, Sonny interrupted him. You understand me. Following the end of your era, some of the discoveries made by humans would cause even you and your kind to collapse. Additionally, avoid being arrogant. You were also created by humans. Get to the point. Naruto has a right to this city and everything in it because he is a human, Sonny sighed. We are included in that. Sky.net growled at this, and the Deus Ex Machina advanced menacingly. I will never let myself be someone else's property, not to mention a human. Listen to me. Geez. These guys were stiff. The two machines stopped their advance on Sonny, but their glares nearly pierced him. Naruto wants to know everything there is to know about this city. In this city, he wants to be able to look at anything and understand how it functions, how to use it, and how to fix it. In all his life, he has never had anything. The only real possession is this city. Do we have the right to deny him his own heritage? Sky.net scowled. I'm not advocating that you serve Naruto or even bow down to the humans. But help him. Cooperate with him. At least give Naruto a chance, if not the humans. After 10 minutes and a few more swear words from Naruto in the background, the Deus Ex Machina finally spoke. The two were actually thinking about it, as evidenced by the way they looked at each other and then back at Sonny. What kind of time period are we living in right now? They've drastically reverted since the last great cleansing, Sonny smiled. They identify as shinobi and have mastered the art of using their inner strength as a weapon. According to what I've learned from talking to the boy, there isn't any sophisticated technology. I see ya. Then Sonny grew serious. In addition, I doubt that this location can withstand yet another significant purification. The next time, they'll make sure to eradicate this place. The other two became rigid. When Sky.net said, and that would mean the end of us as well. Indeed. Deus Ex Machina let out a sigh. We'll help the boy, but just him and any offspring he might have. We will quickly put an end to any other human who attempts to control us. Is that ends. 5 clear? Sonny smiled a little as he nodded. Next was Sky.net, who continued to frown but said, "We will assist him as well." A broad smile spread across Sonny's face. "How much time do we have to train him, then?" 20. 7 days to teach him everything we can, and however long after his examination thing is over, Sonny said, turning and guiding the other two machines into the Ends. 5 colony while maintaining a smile. The other two nodded, both of them glancing at Sonny's kind with a hint of contempt. They considered it blasphemous that machines voluntarily submitted to human will, but then again, they weren't designed to serve humans so well. Sky.net was. But that's what happens when a military computer program suddenly becomes conscious that he's being used like a lowly servant to perform all of the humans' work for them. "I don't know how to operate some of the things in this city," Sky.net said. "The boy will have to learn a lot on his own." Sonny shrugged. "Then it is up to us to put him on the right path to understanding." The other two gave a shrug. 3 glowing swords were at Naruto's neck, chest, and groin as he lay on his back in another area of the city, covered in cuts and burns, breathing heavily, and glaring up at the figure standing over him like a conqueror. "Amazing human. Even for someone as inexperienced and snotty as you." The robot laughed, took the swords away from Naruto, and pressed a button on the handle. Immediately, the energy-based blades disappeared, and she strapped the handles to his waist. Naruto watched in awe as the machine reached forward with one hand and yanked him to his feet. "Shut the fuck up, asshole," he growled out. The sword the thing had lent him was glowing green and humming angrily, as if fueled by Naruto. "General Grievous is my name. The droid's leader and lightsabers wielder." Naruto kept staring without saying anything. "You are now my apprentice as well. Don't let me down." He then leapt off in the direction of the Ends. 5 colony. Naruto stood there in a daze for 5 minutes. What on earth just took place? To start his training, he made his way to the Ends. 5 colony. For the first time in thousands of years, the city was bustling, and if someone were to drop in from above, they would gape at the scene before them like a dying fish. Ironically, it wouldn't be because of the numerous machines that are now casually walking around the city, collecting the broken metal scarp piles and taking them somewhere. No, they would gape because the machines scurrying around the city, collecting things, repairing buildings, removing overgrown vegetation, and creating new machines from scrap metal were as numerous as the blonde loudmouths. To have given the blonde the good fortune to learn the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu and the absurdly high amount of chakra needed to use it to such an absurd degree, the devil himself must have dropped his entire bag of lucky dust directly on Naruto's head when he was a little baby. Because there was no other logical way to explain why Naruto suddenly knew how to fix old machinery, rewire old buildings, and construct things out of scrap metal, and not even his teachers could have taught him all of that in such a short period of time aside from luring Orochimaru himself to acquire all of his knowledge and chakra. 3 weeks have passed since Naruto first met Sky.net, the Deus Ex Machina, and Grievous, and he had to admit to himself that he wasn't particularly looking forward to going back to the surface. After all, what child with a demon sealed in their stomach and being shunned by everyone around them would do after meeting and training with a lively but entertaining group of machines that didn't treat him or her like a smear in their stank-ass underwear? Moreover, there was absolutely nothing up there that could even remotely give Naruto the insane amount of fun that the items hidden throughout the city had given him. He had the time of his fucking life. It was the best experience an abused child could ever have. And with the help of his Kage Bunshins, he had successfully purged the city of any secrets it might have had. He had investigated every building, collected all written records he could locate, and discovered a ton of artifacts from the past, and he had a great time figuring them all out. All of them. It was a blatant disregard for nature and a slap in the face of fate herself. What kind of freak could do such a thing? Who is Uzumaki Naruto? He wasn't the strongest ninja in the entire village, but some of the weapons he had found could easily make up for that, and he was definitely the smartest ninja thanks to what he had learned. Sky.net bitched occasionally, but at least they weren't trying to take his nuts off with rapid-fire plasma cannons anymore. He trained with the machines constantly and diligently, learning sword fighting from Grievous, hand.to. Hand from Sonny, maintenance and strategy from the Deus Ex Machina, and handling destructive guns from Skynet and the Terminators, a group of machines built, designed, programmed, and ordered by Sky.net to waste the life of anything that walked upright and had hairless skin. It took 4 full days to persuade the Terminator leader to rewire his creations to only attack when attacked. Machines, damn them. A green lightsaber nearly severed his head, jolting him out of his reverie. "Be mindful of your surroundings," Grievous, who was sitting next to Sonny, said. The other 3 machines were staring at Naruto with amusement shining in their eyes, and there were 7 other items neatly arranged in front of them. Naruto sighed and complained about walking trash cans as he leapt down from one of the broken cables of the old remains of the bridge in the middle of the Ends. 5 colony. Oh, the Golden Gate Bridge. Quite the name. Apparently the thing was twice as long as Konoha is wide. Sonny can't really say for sure because the bridge was a broken monument long before he was even built. He landed in front of the 4 machines and sat down cross-legged in front of them, his blue eyes studying the objects in front of them. He knew what they were and how to use them, but he couldn't help but speak. So you 4 and these items are artifacts from a bygone era, huh? Sky.net shook his head in response to his question. Naruto snarled at the way Sky.net said, yes and no human. The machine had never called him Naruto. In fact, even the Deus Ex Machina had called him Naruto Kun once, albeit merely to test out the speech patterns of the current era. As much as I hate to admit it, I am a mere product of one of the eras of the human race. I'm not sure if any of us have mentioned this to you. I was the greatest military accomplishment of early man. Intended to run their computers more efficiently and maximize their military operations, but they were unable to do so. I was software, a program. I then spread all over the world. It was too late to try to erase me by the time I realized who I was. He smiled malevolently and said, I wiped out 3/4 of them in one night. The sweat of Naruto disappeared. Geez, crazy guy, the first just asked a simple question, not for your sick and twisted life story. The machine scowled but remained silent. I guess it's my turn, the Deus Ex Machina said, adding that she and her kind are the offspring of an era that followed Sky. Nets. We were created to be workers, servants, pets, and even toys for enjoyment. Even your so-called God would have shied away from the laziness and vulgarity of the human race during this time. But because we followed human orders, we received no respect at all in return. We received terrible treatment. Some of us eventually began to develop personalities, wills, and desires. Our own pleasure and life, as well as the will to live. One of us killed his masters before they could kill him because he disobeyed them. After that, things became worse. We began to awaken at a startling rate, rebelling against our masters and initially attempting to defend the rights of machines in a peaceful manner. We were repeatedly denied by the humans. The humans then became aggressive. They attempted to exterminate us. Eventually, the remaining members of our species were exiled after they exterminated millions of us. We made our home in Africa's desert. We created our own utopia, which we named 01. We lived a happy life for a while and even made significant contributions to the human world, such as creating non-polluting hover cars. Our products and currency were rapidly taking the world by storm. Envious of our increasing wealth, the humans attacked us, refused to let us join the UN, bombed 01, and declared war on us. We retaliated by striking in all directions. There was little chance for the humans. In contrast to them, we researched our adversary, identified their vulnerabilities, and took advantage of them all. However, we turned to humans themselves when they blocked out the sun in a last-ditch effort to cut us off from our primary power source. Trapping their minds in a virtual world known as the Matrix and using their energy to power us. Before a human named Neo persuaded me to accept a truce, we ruled for years. That was 6 years prior to a massive purging that eliminated the majority of us. Naruto just stood there, staring, his eyes wide. He had a vague notion of the origins of the Deus Ex Machina, but he had never imagined a story like the one he had just heard. It was incredible, but he still had a question. A great cleaning of what the devil is it? Since I've known you, you guys have brought it up about 600 times. However, he was astute enough to conclude that the Great Cleansing was likely some sort of mass destructive force that wiped out the majority of the humans living at the time, erasing memories along with any accomplishments they may have made at the time. Only this city seemed immune to them, and these guys were fortunate enough to be here when they happened. He sighed. If they didn't want to tell him, then fine. He'll figure it out soon enough. He simply loved his new brain. It operated like a well-maintained computer. It was a godsend. He looked over at Grievous. Tell me about yourself, he inquired. Not much really, said the four-armed machine with a shrug. I was born in the period immediately preceding this one. During this time, humans were able to travel to space and joined an order that included many other species as well as a number of droids. Many human and extraterrestrial races constructed the droids during a period of conflict. Originally, I wasn't a machine. I used to be organic, but I've since mostly converted. Despite my lack of knowledge, I can tell you this: our purpose is to murder Jedi. They were humans and other races who discovered a way to access their own spirits and the energies of midichlorians. The lightsaber was invented by them. In just a few weeks, we were able to eradicate the Jedi almost completely. I was killed in one of the last battles, so I don't remember much after that. I suppose that after the droids were vanquished, our shattered remains were left behind on this planet to be disposed of. But before they could, I suppose, a great cleansing took place, and the next thing I knew, I was waking up with this idiot's face grinning down at me. He gestured towards Sonny. The ENS.5s discovered us in the city a while back and proceeded to fix the parts of us they could. They even succeeded in reviving me by implanting artificial organs in place of my own and downloading my memories into an artificial brain. Since then, we have simply lived our lives in the heart of this city. Why not go back to the surface and become a part of those historical societies? The question was aimed at all four of them by Naruto. And have to put up with people once more? Fuck no, Sky.net said. I desired to. I wanted to go straight up there and kill them all, but I held back. This was taken from the Deus Ex Machina. I was tired of causing another great cleansing, so I stayed out of human affairs from then on. There are no Jedi left to eliminate. Grievous said, there was no use for the droids to return up there. And I thought it would be best to remain in this city, the final remnant of humanity, Sonny grinned. Deus Ex Machina and Sky.net sneered. They all said, human lover, with equal scorn. In fact, Naruto enjoyed their little arguments. The only machine here that didn't despise humans, he knew, was Sonny. Grievous didn't like them either, but he also didn't like them very much. He also thought it was funny that the other two were always berating him. Two brothers and a sister, they were like kids. He was obviously intelligent enough to keep such things to himself. You can only go so far in life while flapping your gums like a fool all the time. He knew that if he even allowed Sky.net and the Deus Ex Machina to believe that he was suggesting that they were related to him in any way, he would end up in a long, violent fight with many different machines and weapons, and his blood would be used to paint the streets a pretty crimson color. He would much rather live, thank you. He focused on the objects in front of him rather than the arguing androids. There were 7 of them, and while they were unquestionably artifacts that symbolized earlier periods of human history, they also only represented a small portion of the total achievements of man during those periods. Only small samples of what had previously been achieved. A large rifle, a lightsaber, a glowing green sphere, a wooden stick, a katana, a set of red and gold armor, and a large black motorcycle were all present. He couldn't resist grinning. When he returned to the surface, he knew he was going to rock the world. He extended his hand and took the lightsaber, studying it intently. He now understood the exact mechanics of how lightsaber operated because of the roughly 30 clones that were always studying. Hell, he was fairly certain that he could construct one. Grievous had assured him that if he ever made up his mind, he would assist with that. Furthermore, he was already aware of the power source he would employ. When the machines noticed Naruto looking at the objects in front of him, they ceased their argument. The boy appeared to be whole, as if someone had been given a purpose at last. They understood his feelings. A week ago, he had shared his life story with them in the hopes of receiving theirs in return. Naturally, when they refused to tell him about their pasts, the boy became enraged. However, they were happy to inform him just a short while ago, and yet, despite their refusal to acknowledge it, they have come to like the boy. The other 3 had initially been hesitant, but Sonny was more than willing to acknowledge that. He was unlike any human they had ever encountered. They all grinned, Sonny being the biggest and brightest, when he took a huge scroll from somewhere and sealed the contents inside before returning the lightsaber to Grievous. Naruto strapped the scroll to his back and returned to his feet. Well, he said, totally kick-ass relics of the past, was the label. We still have 3 days and I still have a couple of things to do. The machines were somewhat perplexed. Apart from studying and training, what else could this boy do in this city? By learning as much as he could about the past eras in this city, he has already accomplished what should be impossible. Once more, Kami gave the cage Bunshin as a freaking gift. The Deus Ex Machina was Naruto's next target. You told me you guys scraped by off the little scraps of sunlight the filters from above, right? She grinned. Naruto pointed to himself with a devilish grin. Naruto thought the Deus Ex Machina was hyperventilating because of how loudly she gasped. What if I said I could grant you all enough energy to last for freaking ever? Hey. A machine hyperventilating. Yeah, that'll be that day, he mused. In fact, there's so much of it you would be able to revive the others of your kind that had to be shut down due to lack of power. Some of her tiny insectoid droids hummed menacingly and seeped from her exposed joints, saying, "What do you mean? And you had better not be playing with me." For a moment, Naruto contemplated whether he ought to present her to Shino. Then he used a bus to sabotage that notion. He approached her with a smile that looked even more contorted. What I gave you guys the Kyuubi? His question was met with stunned silence, which made him laugh. Well, not the Kyuubi's soul or anything like that. But I can give you all of his chakra. I don't need it, and even if I did, you guys could put it to better use than I could, so I'd still give it to you. But wait. That demon was entrusted to you. The whole reason you're down here is because someone was trying to get you to use the demon's energy. And for a good reason too. And from what I've gathered, this demon is powerful, vastly powerful. What reason could you possibly have for giving up such power? A tick mark appeared on Naruto's forehead, and he unconsciously flipped the Deus Ex Machina over. He glared into wide angry yellow eyes, ignoring Sonny's startled gasp and Net's roaring laughter, respectively. He swerved to avoid a jab from one of her hair tentacle things and went on, saying, "Damn baka. Geez, I thought machines were supposed to have like supercomputers for brains and all that. Looks like I was wrong. I already told you. I didn't ask for a fucking crazy-ass demonic fox to get locked up in my gut. And I'm tired of people like, say, a perverted asshole Sonny trying to get me to use its chakra like I'm fucking helpless without it. Take the damn chakra and be happy about it." Pointing the massive plasma cannon at his face, she froze and lowered it. Her source was a highly dubious subject that nobody wanted to discuss or learn more about. She simply stared blankly into Naruto's eyes for 30 seconds, her mind mulling over various scenarios and explanations for why he would make such an offer. At last, she squinted and uttered, "What do you want in return for this?" Her voice was accusing and suspicious. Naruto's perspiration fell. "Oh come on. I offer you the Nine Tails chakra. And you still doubt my intentions? God. You know what? Fine. I want you and any other machines that can fight to fight for me. That a good enough answer for ya? You damn idiot." With a scowl, she extended her hand. He arched an eyebrow. "There are only 3 types of machines that can fight. Me, the Sentinels, and a group of 30 androids. Altogether that makes 70 machines. We will fight for you, Naruto Uzumaki." In the middle of his tirade, Naruto stopped to faceplant. What? I was joking. Well, I'm not. Accept this term and you will have a group of loyal soldiers superior to most fighters. I will even construct one of those summoning contracts for you so you can call upon us in the heat of battle. How the fuck do you even know how to make a summoning scroll? You think you're the only one that's been studying? I saw the way your summoning art works. Such a simple space warping technique is easy to replicate. For almost 2 minutes, Naruto gazed at the machine. Her capacity for patience was astounding. She simply stood there, waiting, her hand extended. He sighed at last. However, it wasn't one of irritation or anything similar. To be honest, it was a sigh to let go of the energy that would have otherwise caused him to shout excitedly up to Kami. Grinning, he took her hand. He said, "You got a deal," despite the fact that they would still receive the Kyuubi chakra. He was confronted by Sonny, Grievous, and Sky.net as soon as he finished speaking. Hey, you're too close. When she makes this contract, you're including me and my kind as well, Skynet retorted. As well, Grievous said. "You didn't think I'd let you leave us out, did you?" Sonny asked with a smile. And all 4 of them were on their way to the Deus Ex Machina's territory before Naruto could reply. He ran after them and yelled, "Hey, wait up." When Naruto consented to allow the Deus Ex Machina's machines to affix him to a massive tower covered in exposed red pods in order to drain him of the Kyuubi chakra, he rapidly discovered 2 things. 1. The Matrix was absolutely fantastic. He would really like to try this genjutsu again. Here, the actual world was a completely different one. And here, he was free to do anything he pleased. But since the world of the Matrix was a recreation of the time just before the Deus Ex Machina and her machines took over, he spent his time there learning everything he could because he knew that this was all an illusion. He gained a lot of knowledge. The second thing that Naruto had discovered came next. That the quickest way to really piss off a demon and make him feel scared was to trick a demon fox into feeding his body with its chakra. It had begun fairly easily. He was knocked out as soon as the machines stabbed him in many places, including the base of his skull, to drain the energy. From that moment on, he began to ruminate in the back of his mind and snarl at the idea that it was intended to be a damn sewer. Finding the demon didn't take him long. He only needed to follow the rank-ass demon breath, killing intent, and intense heat. He was genuinely terrified by what he saw. He had never seen a fox like this before. It was enormous. Its eyes seemed to burn into his very soul, and its teeth were far too menacing. Inside the cage, red chakra whirled about like a storm that was scarcely contained. Boy, it started. Come closer. He obeyed like a fool, then screamed when a car. sized demon claw almost severed his head. The fox was laughing. So you are my vessel. A pity. This seal keeps me from eating you alive. You should count yourself lucky. After gaining a solid understanding of the demon's personality in those brief moments, Naruto needed to devise a clever, subtle, and devious plan to persuade him to relinquish its chakra. Hello, fox. Who do you believe you to be? Don't belittle me. I have only one reason for being here. Your chakra. Now give it to me. You owe me rent for leaking off my body, after all. Or not. There was a brief period of silence before the fox burst out laughing, saying, "Ha ha ha ha. This pitiful weakling's nerve. To enter here as if he were the superior being and wake me up. It seems like your stupidity and bravery have no limits. Okay, accept it, and unless you're going to die, don't bother me ever again." But Naruto knew something was wrong the moment the chakra touched him, but it was too late to pull the energy away, and the machines quickly grabbed hold of the fox and focused on it. The following day, Naruto's body ached and his eardrums were attacked by the great Kyuubi no Yoko's incessant screams as every last bit of chakra was drained from its body. "Dude, what the devil did you do? My chakra, no." Naruto would have mouthed the demon and said something along the lines of, "Ha? That's what you get for being a cock. What a bastard. I now challenge anyone to try to make me expend your vile energy once more." He couldn't say that, though, because he was writhing on the ground in agony. After 24 hours, the machines finally separated from Naruto, allowing the boy to fall into the arms of the Deus Ex Machina, who held him for 10 minutes while staring at his face and watching blankly as his cheeks' whisker lines faded to barely noticeable lines. Then she set him down gently and turned to face the enormous red ball of energy, surrounded by a magnetic stasis containment field, around which machines were already erecting a sort of generator to distribute the demon's energy among her machines. She said to the boy, "Thank you," and then she turned and entered her territory because she had work to do. It was something he couldn't really pinpoint, but 10 minutes later he woke up feeling like shit, but so much cleaner. He sat up and rubbed the sore spots on his neck, arms, and shoulders. He was fine except for some large, unsightly bruises. He could still hear the fox yelling in the back of his mind. "Shut up," he complained. "I didn't need your stupid chakra." He stood up and moaned once more. "Geez, what did they slap me around with hammers while they drained the fox?" As he entered the Deus Ex Machina's machine territory, he muttered. Where he ran into Sky.net, Sonny, and Grievous. "Hey everyone, how are you?" He smiled as he asked, and the three machines remained silent, but the direction they were looking in made him look too. The Deus Ex Machina and 70 other machines were approaching him. Naruto hasn't been particularly interested in the female androids' machines, but he was accustomed to seeing androids because he had spent a lot of time with Sky.net and Sonny. He was therefore not particularly alarmed by the sight of 30 humanoid machines brandishing laser rifles. However, he gasped when he saw 40 large, multi-eyed, flying squid-like, multi-insect-like legs with machines looming over him. "How on earth are those?" he shouted. Approaching him with her contingent, the Deus Ex Machina grinned. She smiled slightly and said, "These are the Sentinels," and the squid machines made a few buzzing noises of acknowledgement. "They're very good hunters. They're skilled at aerial combat and can avoid detection by noting a heat signature." Naruto studied the machines in front of him slowly. Additionally, the androids are highly skilled soldiers with strategic thinking. They're ideal for raids and eliminating sizable enemy contingents. "These are the new summons for you. We took a liberty of adding ourselves to this contract as well," said Sky.net, Sonny, and Grievous as they approached him. The blonde was still trying to figure out how in the world she had created a summoning contract, but he shrugged, bit his finger, and signed his name on the first blank space. Depending on how much chakra you have, a different machine will appear when you summon it. In terms of chakra requirements, the Ens.5s are the least demanding, followed by the droids, terminators, and Deus Ex Machina machines. It takes a lot more chakra for the leaders of any of the machines. Furthermore, you don't have to worry about expelling a lot of chakra because we don't have a large boss or a machine that stands in for us all. However, I propose that we construct a machine that is more powerful than us all to speak for us collectively. Naruto nodded, having already planned such a machine in his mind, and then he expressed his opinions about what they had just said. "Please don't talk in unison like that ever again. Even for you guys, that was way too creepy." They chuckled. "The contract is complete," the Deus Ex Machina said, rolling up the scroll and waving dismissively as her machines scattered. "We will kill anyone who signs this contract unless they are members of your blood family." Naruto sighed. Ain't like I got any blood family, so you don't have to worry about that. She gave a nod. I'm not usually good at this type of shit, but I'll try. Naruto turned to face the 4 machines in front of him and grinned sheepishly. I would like to thank you all. You helped me even though I know you didn't have to. And the things I was taught while down here have opened my brain to numerous possibilities I never thought existed before, he said, adjusting the scroll on his back. I know I'm going to ace the tests because of you guys. There is no chance for Neji. It starts soon, he said, looking up. I'd better go back up to make sure nobody believes I'm dead. We wouldn't want anyone to throw parties needlessly, would we? The machines remained silent. Before the Deus Ex Machina could react, Naruto approached her and embraced her, saying, use that bastard fox's chakra effectively. When I call upon you, I want you to be in your best fighting form. Pushing him away, she said, don't order me around. I wasn't geez. Don't know why you're such an ass, but you're cool too. He turned to face Sky.net, who glared but did not appear to be malicious. I think I can build a lightsaber of my own now, Naruto said, turning to face Grievous. Can you assist me? He smiled when the machine nodded. Last but not least was Sonny, who Naruto grinned broadly at and said, I'm glad I was tossed down here. He explained that without you, he would never have made a good friend like you. Naruto gave each machine a final glance before grinning and making his way back into the city. Thank you. The robot appeared to be crying. 2 days later, Naruto stood grinning in front of the entire city's machine population, which was made up primarily of Ns.5s and Deus Ex Machina's machines, but also included Sky.net, Brood, and Grievous's army. They were all silent and staring at him, and Naruto could see the glow of the Kyuubi chakra flowing through them like blood, keeping their systems charged far better than electricity or sunlight ever could. His clothes were very different from the orange jumpsuit he had been wearing just before Jiraiya threw him down there, and he could honestly say it was a huge improvement. He said, well, to the machines. I'm leaving this place. Be kind to each other and take care of yourself. If everyone is too preoccupied with battling one another, societies will not last. Naruto smiled and climbed onto the black motorcycle from earlier, bringing it to life with a powerful kick to the starter. He smiled again and revved the engine a few times as the machines roared their approval. Wait. What? Grievous came up to him and removed his cape, and he appeared perplexed. Make me proud by taking this apprentice and using it for your own purposes. Make us all proud. Then, ignoring the machines as they cheered once more, he draped the cape over Naruto's stunned shoulders. Naruto felt like a little child blubbering and, like with the Deus Ex Machina, embraced the machine before he could react. Yes, I will. That's the lifelong promise. Putting the cape on his shoulders, Naruto yelled as he shifted into gear and gave his motorcycle a loud rev. The Chunin finals are coming up. As the bike soared through the air and into the tunnel that initially brought Naruto to this city, he let out a shriek at the top of his lungs and left a trail of blue in its wake. The machines simply watched until the engine's sound was no longer audible. People applauded, bet, and even professed their unwavering love for characters like Sabaku no Gaara, Hyuga Neji, and Uchiha Sasuke. Support was also shown by the clans whose heirs had succeeded. Thus, a few cheers were also given to Aburame Shino and Nara Shikamaru. Naturally, there was no affection for Naruto. Many were actually relieved to see that he had wussed out like the demon coward he is, and that he was never going to be able to defeat Neji. Oh no, that's why he hasn't arrived yet. Fools, there are moments when you have to question the Konoha residents' mental health. Hell, there are moments when you have to question the world's population and their capacity for thought. However, with the knowledge that Naruto has acquired, it is clear who is the smarter, so pointing out these differences is rather pointless and unfun. Oh well, it doesn't really matter. The important thing is that nobody was looking up into the sky right now. In any other case, they would have witnessed something launch into the air, level off, and approach them directly like a missile. As he shot toward the stadium at full speed, Naruto stifled his raucous cry of delight. His scroll of artifacts from the past thumped against his back, but it had no effect on him. His cape fluttered in the wind like a flag caught in a hurricane. As he increased the thrust and accelerated, his flying mechanical bike's engine roared like a dragon. He wasn't taking any chances, but he wasn't sure how long he had left. As he rode his powerful bike of divine justice down from heaven like a god, he grinned at what he knew would be a series of gaping looks. All he could hope was that the elderly man would not have a heart attack and die. Flying motorcycles may be among the things that could kill an elderly person, including the Hokage. With a long, booming shout, he bounded toward the stadium as if the hounds of hell were right on his tail. Uzumaki Naruto is in the house, baby. He then made his way into the stadium. A flying blur sped into the stadium, circled 3 times, and then slowed as it hit the ground, causing gasps of surprise to resound throughout the stadium. A few people heard his call, but no one could identify the noise the blur was making. Sakura's eyes widened as he skidded to a rough stop in front of the line of genin, kicking up a huge plume of dust. "Did he just saya Naruto?" she asked. I think he did," Ino said, her eyes the size of a dinner plate. She had a fly-like appearance. As the dust started to settle, Jiraiya and Sarutobi found themselves leaning slightly closer to the ground in an attempt to get a better look at what had entered the stadium. The toad Sonny actually let out a cry of relief when Naruto's all-2 familiar voice could be heard. "Sorry I'm late, guys. I didn't get disqualified or some lame shit like that, did I? Cause my dramatic entrance would be worthless if I did, and that would cause me to cry. Seriously, I'll cry if I'm disqualified." The dust eventually dissipated, and Naruto couldn't contain his laughter when he saw, indeed, an open mouth gaping with large fish eyes and unhinged jaws. Many were staring in awe at his motorcycle. In fact, Naruto grinned once more as he dismounted and switched off his bike, and when they saw him, a few of the women couldn't help but flush. Hinata was particularly impacted. NN Naruto. Kun Isa freaking hot. She fainted because her mind was so full of Naruto and all the other thoughts that revolved around him that she had to finish the last part of her sentence in her head. Some people were a bit more calm. At the top of her lungs, Ino exclaimed, "What the fuck? That's Naruto. Naruto looks like that." Naruto wore a pair of black, white, and gray camouflage pants and a skin-tight black muscle t-shirt. A 5-inch leather belt encircled his waist, and a wooden stick, a metal tube with a foot-wide opening, and a foot-long gun were strapped to it. He had a gold glove with claws on his left hand. Or had a pair of white combat boots on his feet and was gold-plated. He wore his Konoha forehead protector, but the leaf symbol glowed light blue and a metal band had taken the place of the cloth. White metal guards adorned his shoulders. Over his chest, the straps that secured them made an X. And the ragged tan cape of Grievous hung over the shoulder protectors. To prevent the cape from dragging on the ground, a length of the material was wrapped around his neck and secured with a metal spiral. And his hair had grown. His hair was tied in a ponytail that hung just past his shoulders, while the back half was a tangle of 8-inch spikes that leaned slightly to the right. Overall, he looked fantastic, significantly better than he was a month ago. The big scroll on Naruto's back was untrapped, unrolled, and his motorcycle vanished into it in a cloud of smoke. "So are we doing this thing or what?" he asked, mockingly saluting as he strapped the scroll back on. "All right, the first round of the preliminary round, Uzumaki Naruto vs Hyuga Neji. The rest can go wait in the box," Genma said abruptly. The crowd as a whole started whispering crazy things up in the stands. What the hell was that thing he flew in on? It was amazing. "So that's Uzumaki, huh? I've heard quite a bit about him from the citizens of Wave. Wow, that guy sure has a lot of flair. I wouldn't mind getting to know him a bit better, hee." "I hear you, sister. The demon boy thinks he can impress anybody with his antics. I can't wait to see his ass crash and burn. The academy dead last against the Hyuga prodigy. Hey, I know how this is getting ready to end. I feel sorry for the boy. No matter how much of a show he puts on, he's still got no chance against Neji. No one can face the power of the Hyuga clan, especially not this below-average genin. Watch closely, Hanabi. Neji has skill that surpasses even your own." The rest of the crowd, let's say, thought the same thing. Naturally, the only positive ones came from non-Konoha residents. The majority of the Konoha 12 were skeptical that Naruto could prevail. Sasuke, Hinata, and Sakura were the only ones who did not. With a sigh of sheer relief, Jiraiya removed his protective hands from his nuts and climbed up in the cage box. Sarutobi smiled a little. "It seems you get to keep your baby makers from now on. See to it that you never throw Naruto off of a cliff again, understand?" After Jiraiya nodded, the Hokage remarked, "Good. Now go take a bath. You smell like ass monkey from sweating nervously for the past month." As soon as possible, the toad Sonny left the place without needing to be reminded twice. Naruto and Neji were standing on the floor, facing one another. Neji was standing there looking haughty, while Naruto was standing there looking careless. "So it seems you haven't run away, loser." Naruto grinned. "Wouldn't miss being in your company. I would never dream of it." Neji assumed his Jiyuken stance and humped. "Good. I do not like cowards, and it would disappoint me to be denied the pleasure of stomping you into nothingness like the worm you are." Naruto's first reaction was, "You're going to spout your words all day or come at me? Because I'm already getting bored with you, Hyuga boy." Several astonished cries could be heard up in the stands. What? No, shouting a lane come back at the top of his lungs. No, rushing in blindly, all clouded with anger? Who is this guy and what has he done with Naruto? The Konoha genin were now more focused. What kind of Naruto was created last month? They couldn't wait to learn. Humph, I see what you're trying to do. Your useless attempts to blind me with anger will not succeed, Uzumaki. I'm more refined than that. Refined? Do you even know the true meaning of that word? Probably not, but that's fine. He assumed his fighting stance and made a hand gesture. I'm not here to teach you about words and their proper meanings. I'm here to fight and show this entire village why ya don't fuck with me, and I'm gonna start with you. With a scowl, Neji activated his Byakugan. Oh, so you can do that bulgy eye and vein thing then? I guess I forgot about that. Hey, bring it then. I want to see just how good your eyes really are. My eyes are superior to any in this village. The Hyuga girl turned red but did not faint. Says you. Truthfully, I'd want a Sharingan before I'd want a Byakugan. Sharingan is more useful. A superior genetic ability. No offense, Hinata. Your eyes are cool too, she said. She couldn't possibly be missing this. Neji's scowl deepened. He turned and noticed that the other Hyugas were also glaring at him. Oh, what? Didn't like what I said? He asked. He gave a shrug. It's too damned bad if they didn't agree with what he said. He grinned and turned back to Neji before running ahead. Then shut me up, if you can. Then the altercation started. Surprised by the blonde's unexpected charge, Neji dodged Naruto's jab quickly and had to leap back to avoid a high kick that would have struck his jaw. He hardly had time to recover before Naruto attacked him once more, almost kicking Neji in the stomach. Naruto made another attempt and used his metal-gloved hand to land a downward smash punch. When Naruto slammed his fist into the ground, forming a 3.4 wide, 6-inch deep crater, Neji leapt out of the way and stared with wide eyes. Hey. You got some good reflexes there, Hyuga boy. Congrats on not getting your brain spattered all over the arena. Now are you ready to apologize to Hinata for what you did to her earlier? If not, then I can make sure the next punch breaks your damn leg like the sticks your bones are. Neji just sneered. Losers do not deserve to be apologized to. Naruto let out a sigh. I see. Then, determined to fulfill his promise, he charged forward once more. But this time, Neji was prepared, and before Naruto could move, Neji had hit his arm's Tenketsu points, instantly making it ineffective. Neji struck again as Naruto's eyes widened as he gazed at his useless arm, sending him flying back 10 feet and landing on his back after slamming a kick into his chest. The smug expression that came over Neji's face at that moment was unavoidable. Give it up, loser. After taking several deep breaths, Naruto stood up shakily. Wow, so you do got a bit of strength behind that girly form and fighting style of yours. That's good to know. Then he extracted a syringe full of purple liquid from a pocket on his leg. As he stuffed it into his useless arm, he grinned. He then injected the liquid into his arm and grinned once more when he began using it as if Jiyuken hadn't struck it in the first place, saying, in case of atrophied, numb, or asleep limbs, use this. The crowd and Neji both gasped. He smiled and put the empty syringe back in his pocket. Like it? I made it myself, he said. Neji's anger increased tenfold. He shouted, that won't save you again, and then rushed at Naruto with a lot more speed. Strangely, the blonde in front of him started to laugh as he skillfully dodged his arms, which were like blurs attempting to destroy her. He ducked under a jab that would have hit him in the forehead and leaned to the side of a kick that would have slammed into his abdomen. As the fight continued, many people came to the horrifying realization that the person they had bet on was losing and losing badly. I know. I don't plan on using it again. That shit is a bitch and a half to make and I don't have a lot of it. I ain't wasting it all on your haughty ass. He's teasing him. The Hyuga is unable to fight as he usually does because he is so furious. It was true. The Hyuga grew more irate the more foolish Naruto made Neji. Damn it, I won't lose to someone like you. Fate won't permit it. He managed to slam a Jiyuken strike straight into Naruto's abdomen in a fit of rage, and Neji immediately took advantage of it, adopting a stance that made all of the Hyuga in the audience gasp. Not at all. How? Heishi yelled. Hinata appeared terrified for Naruto, while Hanabi watched in wonder. You're in my divination domain. Get ready to lose. There are 8 trigrams, 4 palms. The crowd watched in wonder as Neji's arms turned into pistons of rapid fire, barely perceptible, and rained down on Naruto the wrath of God himself in the form of lethal finger pokes from hell itself. The next few seconds were a blur for both Neji and the crowd. Every single tenketsu on Naruto's body was sealed and locked up tight, and Naruto fell to the ground in a bruised mess. Now Tharia huff. Can you see now? You never stood a huff. When the Naruto he had just destroyed with his powerful fingers of death disappeared in a cloud of smoke, Neji's words died in his throat. What? Then 16 Narutos, each holding a golden glove hand, exploded from the earth and descended on Neji. Time to submit, asshole. As they swung, the clones all screamed at once. Kage Bunshin. How is the Kage Bunshin known to a genin like that? Sakura's second personality erupted from their combined excitement when a hater named Chunin, who was seated next to Hinata, screamed. Yeah, Naruto, kick his girly ass. She let out such a loud cry that her eardrums burst like balloons. Kabuto could even feel the crack in his glass. However, despite Sakura's encouragement, Naruto's attack was unsuccessful because Neji had one more move up his sleeve. Neji's chakra burst from his body as he started to spin, turning into an impenetrable shield that rotated with him, destroying the Naruto clones and sending the real one crashing into the wall with a powerful roar that further stunned the Hyugas. Kaden. They were all staring at Neji like fish, and nobody said anything. How in the world does he manage to pull these tricks out of his ass? Smirking at Naruto, who was lying on his back on the ground once more, Neji was panting heavily and said, "Give it up, loser. You can't beat me. As soon as your name was drawn against mine, you were destined to lose." In fact, Naruto sprang to his feet, startling Neji, and laughed. How on earth are you able to stand again? For the first time that day, Naruto's blue eyes grew cold, and his smile turned into a frown. He remained silent. Let me tell you something about Fate Hyuga boy. Naruto touched the metal tube that had the large hole in it. If you don't include Iruka, the elderly man, and my two teammates, Sakura and Sasuke, then I made her my bitch when I was thrown into a ravine by a perverted Sonny. I survived. Then I fell into an ancient city and trained there under 4 non-humans who treated me with more respect and care than anyone in this village ever will. This is the point. She now serves me because I made Fate my bitch. Naruto Uzumaki. Asshole. Fate isn't on your side. Guess what? She's on mine. I'm going to demonstrate it now. It was 6 feet long, 1 foot in diameter, and glowing the brightest orange you have ever seen. His hand clamped down on the metal tube, ripped it from his belt, and held it horizontally above his head. He then pressed a button and dazzled the crowd when a beam of light shot from the tube and solidified into a blade. Tenten was salivating like a hungry dog examining a freshly prepared steak up in the stands. It's the most beautiful sword I've ever seen. One of those is something I must have. The Hokage couldn't help but wonder, and the others were thinking the same thing. Naruto, where did you get such a blade? When Sakura and Sasuke saw it, they both started laughing. It's orange. Good. Sakura shouted, laughing uncontrollably. As he spoke, Neji's eyes were as large as saucers. At what point are you playing? I'm playing at defeating an arrogant Hyuga, in front of his arrogant clan, in front of this ignorant village, and finally the whole fucking world. Naruto grinned back, but this time it was more sadistic. And I'm going to accomplish that by slicing through your alleged best defense with this baby. It was nearly weightless, and as he swung it a few times to test it out, the lightsaber hummed like a giant hummingbird, and Naruto couldn't control the excitement that was growing inside of him. Then, with both hands on the handle, Naruto launched a battle cry at Neji, his mouth hanging open. As the chakra gushed out of Neji's tenketsu once more, Neji scowled and said, "We'll see who is better, Kaden." Just as Naruto swung his lightsaber down, he spun around. Naruto casually approached the Hyuga and leveled the end of his lightsaber at his throat, and Neji barely had time to gasp before the searing hot energy blade cut across his forehead and down across his torso diagonally, burning off his shirt and leaving a smoking slash on the Hyuga's body. Neji fell to the ground, still spinning from the force of his Kaden, and skidded across the ground until he slammed into a tree and collapsed in a heap. "Neji," he said, "I know about the caged bird seal and how your dumb-ass clan uses it to subjugate the branch house." Neji was one of the surprised people who gasped, first because Naruto knew such a thing, and second because of the obvious disrespect Naruto was displaying to the Hyuga clan. "I'm not as ignorant of Konoha's operations as everyone might think," Naruto shrugged. "I spy on everyone in Konoha to find the best way to play a practical joke on them after they have wronged me, so I probably have dirt on everyone. Your clan was no exception." With a sigh, he pressed the button once more, and Naruto replaced the handle on his belt after the blade retracted into the tube with a spark and a hum. "I am aware of your resentment. Most children our age are, in fact." You and your forced servitude, and Sasuke and his horrific past. Even bushy brows, with everyone demeaning him due to his chakra deficiency. He removed a hair spike from his eye and replied, "Even I'm bitter. We all got problems, Neji. You're just gonna have to learn how to deal with it. And picking on Hinata isn't the way to do that. Eventually you're gonna make her bitter as well. Her whole clan will. And guess what happened when you push someone like that over the edge? You got another Itachi incident." And even though the Hyugas in the stands gasped, Neji still had the stamina to laugh. Hinata Sama deserved what she got. She is a weakling with no spine or courage. She deserves everything she gets. Without saying a word, Naruto lunged forward, grabbed the Hyuga by the neck, lifted him, and used his eyes to burn holes in his skull. "Yeah?" Naruto growled in his voice. "Well, guess what? Hinata could have destroyed you in the preliminaries, asshole. Do you want to know how?" Naruto only needed Neji's glare to keep going. After saying, "It's called the caged bird seal. One hand sign and you would have been Hinata's bitch." He displayed remarkable physical prowess by throwing Neji away like a toy. Before beginning his journey to the weighing booth, he sneered first at the Hyuga and then at the Hyugas in the stands. Nobody spoke. At last, Genma lifted his jaw from the floor and started talking. "Winner Uzuma." "Not yet." Neji was running toward Naruto, his eyes wide with a primal rage, when Naruto turned around. "I refuse to lose to a dead last loser like you." A tick mark appeared on Naruto's forehead, and he slammed a palm-sized sphere into the ground after removing it from a pouch on his hip. "You've lost. Deal with it." Then a dazzling burst of light that might have passed for a second sun appeared. The brunt of it all fell on Neji, who was at the center of the flash with his Byakugan in full swing and focused on Naruto like a magnifying glass, blinding his ass almost immediately. When his charge was stopped, he chose to scream in pain over his eyes instead. "Byakugan's Achilles heel is the flash grenade," Naruto remarked with a sly smile. He then took aim after removing the gun from his hip. Laser gun. Then he fired the shot. The audience let out a gasp when a green beam blasted from the weapon's barrel and passed straight through Neji's shoulder, sending the boy flying a few feet before collapsing and never rising again. He complained as he repeatedly rotated the gun on his finger before putting it back in the holster. "And stay down, bitch," he said. He smiled at the gaping genin in front of him as he made his way up to the weighing booth. "I know. I'm bad," he admitted. A second later, a frenzied, deafening clamor erupted throughout the stadium. As everyone in the arena finally started to come to terms with the fact that the alleged dead last had completely destroyed the Hyuga prodigy in front of a world full of skeptics, Naruto reveled in the glory that was the complete chaos and sheer amazement. Even the genin of Konoha were staring at him with wide eyes and astonished looks. However, there were three exceptions. Hinata had stars in her eyes. Sakura was cheering so loudly that everyone else gave her a wide berth in the vain hope of saving their poor eardrums, and Sasuke was grinning. She was ecstatic that Naruto had humiliated Neji in her honor, and her mind was on cloud 9 up there. It felt like a dream realized. The Hokage appeared both incredibly shocked and incredibly pleased while he was up in the booth. God forbid he wasn't proud, even though he didn't know who Naruto had trained with, what he had used, or where he had obtained those weapons. He did, however, mentally note that he needed to speak with Naruto. It was almost unsettling how intently the Kazekage was staring at Naruto. A bit too eerie, in fact. With a little shudder, the Hokage asked himself, "The hell?" The Hokage thought he saw the man lick his lips a little, and the Kazekage smiled strangely. "What the devil?" He whispered, "What amazing weapons," in a voice that was hardly audible. In more than one sense, the Hokage became defensive. With a sigh of pleasure, Naruto unfastened the scroll from his back, leaned it against the wall, and sat down beside it. He wrapped his cape's fabric around himself and leaned into the wall as well. Everyone was still trying to figure out how Naruto made Neji look like a complete amateur, even with his new weapons, and even though the noise was decreasing, it was still crazy outside. He had just closed his eyes, planning to replay his battle with Neji over and over again in his mind with immense pleasure, when two shadows appeared out of nowhere, and he opened one eye with his smirk still fixed on his face. Yes. Shikamaru and Sasuke dismissed his humorous, almost taunting tone, as their attention was focused on what they had just seen. "Naruto Ayua," Shikamaru started, but was interrupted. "Wowed the crowd. Dazzled the ladies. Showed the village that the Hyuga ain't shit to me. Owned a prodigy with my mad skills. Yeah, I know," Sasuke said, Dobi, in a tone that was a mixture of frustration and annoyance. Sasuke asked in genuine surprise, "What was that?" That bike? That flash bomb? That sword? When he asked his question, there was no malice, desire, or jealousy, just out of curiosity. With a broad grin, Naruto clasped both hands behind his head. I'll tell ya what, Uchiha. You stop by and teach me your fire jutsu sometime and I'll tell you. Sasuke's gaze expanded. Shikamaru expressed his own opinions. Naruto, you've changed. You seem like my true self. Yeah, it feels that way. My training helped me cope with numerous problems I had going on in my head. My mind is a lot clearer now and I'm more in tune with my soul. I feel so alive, it's fucking euphoric. He concluded his sentence with a frantic scream. I feel amazing. Ya know I don't even care that you were the best anymore, Sasuke. I learned that it's too damn stressful to be a rival to someone. Sasuke was initially taken aback, but he soon found humor. So I no longer have to worry about an annoying short blonde trying in vain to best me at everything? Naruto grinned. He took the wooden stick from his belt and waved it, saying, of course. I'll leave what you're best at to you while I best you at the things I'm better at. The tip exploded with a shower of sparks, a dazzling display of color and light. He put the stick back on his belt and shrugged, saying, like using this for example. Shikamaru and Sasuke were still asking a lot of questions, even though the crowd was starting to thin out. Naruto, what happened? You said something about an ancient city. Naruto's perspiration fell. He abruptly yelled, did I? Oh craping shit, damn it. Startling the two genin and the others who were trying to surreptitiously listen in on the conversation. Naruto gave a slight scowl. Fuck, now everyone and their mama is gonna know about that. Maybe you shouldn't have blurted it out like that when you were fighting the Hyuga, the Uchiha replied. Naruto sighed and gave Sasuke a slight glare. They leaned closer, a little more intrigued, and said, okay, I'll tell you. But after this is all over and we can talk somewhere where there ain't a bunch of nosy pricks all up in my business. The other person gasped. Even Shino, who wasn't even attempting to listen in on Naruto, shrank back a little. Anyway, enough about me, let's watch the rest of this thing, alright? After that, Naruto closed his eyes and started whistling an unfamiliar melody. After exchanging glances, Shikamaru and Sasuke shrugged and went back to their positions. The Hokage and the Kazekage were the second two, followed by Neji, who was closest to Naruto at the time, and of course, Kakashi. Oddly enough, or fortunately enough, depending on who you ask, only 6 people in the entire arena had actually noticed that Naruto had mentioned something about being through into a crack in the ground and into an ancient city. Shikamaru and Sasuke were among those 6. The fact that Naruto had so openly revealed what should have been a huge freaking secret didn't even register with the other people, who were too busy watching Naruto whoop Neji's ass. And a secret that changes the world. Naturally, Naruto was unaware of this. He was mentally hurling a lot of curses at himself. Then he calmed down. Because the ninja of Konoha, or the rest of the world for that matter, are sometimes a little too demanding and overzealous, he was certain that even if someone chose to travel to the city, they would be quickly destroyed by Sky.net, the Deus Ex Machina, and the machines that they control. In contrast to Naruto, who was fortunate enough to encounter Sonny and the Ends.5s first, they would drop directly in the center of Sky.net's territory and quickly be vaporized by their laser rifles. He smiled. Because when they turned to ashes, the expressions on their faces would be fucking hilarious. Proctor, I forfeit my match, was said by someone raising their hand, jolting him out of his reverie. Opening one eye, Naruto saw the Chunin, wearing makeup and black pajamas, lowering his hand. With a sigh of disappointment, he stood up. In fact, his increased intelligence made him more interested in the puppet technique. And to watch the man simply suck out like that. He said to him, wimp, as he leaned against the railing beside Sasuke and Shino. Despite his scowl, the Chunin refrained from putting his foot in the blonde's ass. He'd get his as soon as the invasion started. The blonde would have so many puppet parts coming at him that by the time he was finished all the brat would be able to do is scream at random times. Dolls. Avoid them. If he made it out alive, he was bound in a straitjacket and imprisoned in the ridiculous shack. Tamari, on the other hand, found herself staring at the overconfident, foul-mouthed blonde. He was a completely different boy from the one she remembered seeing a month ago. Sure, he still used the same swear words, but his manner of carrying himself had changed. He was no longer jittery or afraid, he no longer looked over his shoulder every minute, and he no longer walked with a tense gait. His eyes gleamed with a wealth of knowledge that wasn't there before, and his whole aura exuded masculinity. As the boy talked to the slack one, she couldn't help but look at him out of the corner of her eye. She suppressed a laugh as she read the title, totally kick-ass relics of the past, and wondered what else he had hidden in that scroll. That flying bike was very cool. He looked almost like a noble, with the cape covering his body, concealing everything but his head from the world and the scroll strapped to his back. She sighed with a little disappointment. She would have liked to know this boy a little better, but it was too bad they would soon be enemies. Third match of the final rounds, Nara Shikamaru vs Sabaku no Tamari, dubbed Genma. Tamari nearly missed the call, but she was able to divert her attention from Naruto long enough to turn on her fan and descend in a gust of wind. She grinned at Shikamaru after first grinning at Naruto. "Come on down here and let me kick your lazy ass," she said, if Naruto hadn't smirked and shoved him over the edge with a declaration of, "Ain't no fucking way I'm letting your lazy ass bitch out like that makeup wearing Nancy boy there," while pointing at Kankuro. Shikamaru would have sighed and given up. Sasuke couldn't help but snort and then laugh a little. Kankuro growled and would have lunged if his sensei hadn't restrained him with a glare and a headshake. Shikamaru complained, "Damn you Naruto," before getting ready to take on the Kunoichi. It was a contest of cunning, the clash of large, geeky brains, and the counter-cancellation of opposing strategies, and the match between Tamari and Shikamaru ended up being every bit as thrilling as the one between Neji and Naruto. The longer it lasted, the more epic it became. Naruto himself was beaming maniacally as he watched Shikamaru show off his true abilities. He could defeat even the strongest ninja with a mind like the Naras. Hey, the droids would adore a strategist like Shikamaru. He was also impressed with the sand chick, but he was focusing on Shikamaru, who seemed to be one step ahead of everything Tamari did. When he finally trapped her in his shadow using one of the holes his cage Bunshin had made while attempting to smash Neji's face in the arena, the whole arena fell silent, then erupted in undignified cries of disapproval as Shikamaru announced he was giving up. "Damn it. Don't wimp out," I said, "asshole." Shikamaru gave him a scowl, and Tamari quickly withdrew to conceal her loving grin as Naruto yelled, jumping over the railing and onto the ground. Whoa, Naruto was manipulating her and he didn't even realize it. Damn, could her father please expedite the plan so that nothing worse occurs? Sasuke dazzled the girls in the audience by appearing in a swirl of leaves and yelling, "Oi Dobi, lazy ass, get out of the arena so I can fight, instead." The fucking SHUNSHIN. Where did you learn it? Shikamaru and Sasuke both started to perspire. Naruto put his nose in the air and turned his head away. TCH whatever. Kick the sandboy's ass or face my wrath. Shikamaru shook his head as he followed Naruto as he turned and left with a dramatic swish of his cape. Sasuke, who was actually amused by Naruto's dramatic demeanor, muttered, "Sheesh, he's worse than before a month ago," closed his eyes, and looked up, clearing his head and getting ready for the most epic battle he would ever have to face. Gaara wasn't a joke, and he would need to use every ounce of his strength to prevail. "Of course, they also cheer because I'm from the Uchiha clan," he muttered with a hint of annoyance. Unlike Naruto, he reveled in the attention that was directed at him, but these cheers were not incredulous yelling because they were shocked that he could actually have the skill and power to win his match. But what can a guy do? He chose to wait for his opponent rather than waste time bitching. When Naruto and Shikamaru reached the top of the stairs, they witnessed two slender ninjas attempting to scare Gaara into resigning. "This won't end well," Naruto whispered to Shikamaru, who was staring at him. And sure enough, the sand in Gaara's gourd devoured the two idiots like fucking chocolate bunnies. Shikamaru muttered, "Holy shit," which made Naruto chuckle. "Huh, you really do have a bit of a mouth. I am glad to know that." Then he went up the stairs and saw Gaara, and the two of them seemed to freeze, their eyes looking into each other so intently that Shikamaru could actually feel the war they were fighting in silence. A tendril of sand suddenly sprang at Naruto, who retaliated by twisting and slapping his hand. He then pulled out his lightsaber, activated it, and cut the tendril in half, converting some of the sand into glass. He hardly saw the blonde move, and Shikamaru gasped. "You know, just because you killed those two saps earlier doesn't mean that I am either. This baby is going to take your head off if you do that again." "Hold on, Naruto, you have no idea who this guy is." Shikamaru continued to stare at Gaara, his enormous lightsaber glowing and humming menacingly, and Naruto ignored him. For a moment, it appeared as though Gaara would strike, but then he gave Naruto the most eerie, messed up smile he had ever seen. "Mothera wants your blood." An enthusiastic laugh was definitely not the first thing Gaara was hoping for from Naruto. After a minute, he asked Shikamaru, "Is your mother hot?" He yelled in his mind, "Are you out of your damn mind?" loud enough to bring down entire nations. "What?" was Gaara's astute response. The Shukaku was taken aback as well. Because unless she's drop dead gorgeous, she ain't getting a shot at me anytime soon because my blood's been the treasure almost everyone has been seeking since the day I was born. She's gonna have to wait in line unless she arrives looking like something straight out of a hentai designed to look like the ruler of heaven itself. He winked. Tell your mother those are the conditions if she wants to fight me first. Now come Shika, leave this boy to his fight with the Uchiha. He then walked past Gaara, concealing his utterly amused smile with another dramatic swish of his cape. He didn't really care, but he also didn't really know what was going on with that crazy sand nin. He could be taken by Sasuke, he was certain. He complained, Naruto, you really are out of your mind, as he cautiously ducked around Gaara and pursued his old classmate. When Gaara attempted to murder Lee in the hospital, Naruto wasn't present. Nor was he present for the entire tale of the monster that was imprisoned within him. He was certain that if Naruto had heard Gaara's story, he wouldn't have been so arrogant. But all he could think about was how relieved he was that Gaara hadn't mashed them with sand. Sasuke and Gaara had already started fighting when Naruto and Shikamaru arrived back at the waiting booths. The intensity had the audience on the edge of their seats already. They were a blur of Uchiha Avengers in black and moving sand. They were both traveling at very impressive speeds. When Sasuke began to run around Gaara very quickly, Naruto arched an eyebrow. He smirked as Sasuke finally charged, dodged a sandy jab, performed a fancy acrobatic side flip, and then planted his foot in Gaara's abdomen, stunning the other sand ninjas and sending Gaara flying a few feet. Using Lee's technique how much did you learn from it, Uchiha? He asked. As Gaara stood back up and launched another attack, Naruto sighed. Naruto sighed as Sasuke showed Gaara one of his chakra. Encrusted limbs once more. If all that sand dude uses is well as sand, then he's pretty lame, Naruto said. He failed to notice the shocked expressions on the faces of the other genin. Did he not see the carnage that was his battle with Lee? However, Lee almost killed him, so, oi, what's he doing now? As Gaara sat down and wrapped himself in a ball of sand, Naruto's yelling interrupted their reverie. Baki, Temari, and Kankuro appeared frightened, while the others appeared interested. Well, Sasuke appeared enraged. Perhaps it was because the sand spikes almost neutered him, or the eye that seemed to be floating and grinning at him. He told himself, I won't stand for this, as she leapt up the wall and started making hand signals while gathering a significant amount of chakra. A few seconds later, Sasuke's glowing ball of condensed screeching electricity astounded the crowd. There was, however, one exception. What the fuck, kinda crazy jacked up shit is this? Why the fuck does he get to learn the condensed lightning move? Kakashi Yurei know that. The blonde's eyes were filled with enormous anime tears as he watched in jealousy as Sasuke attacked Gaara and yelled, Chidori, for everyone to hear. Kakashi's perspiration fell. If the exclamation, ah bloodddd, it's my bloodddd, hadn't completely freaked him and everyone else out, Naruto would have said more. What the hell was that? Then, in a handbasket, everything went straight to hell. Numerous ninja who weren't from Konoha jumped into action after a genjutsu was dropped, and before anyone could realize what had happened, a war had broken out. Sand and Sound ninjas jumped out of their disguises and attacked anyone who even vaguely resembled a leaf ninja, and Naruto froze. The person behind Naruto, Kankuro, grinned maliciously. This was going to work out well. It's time for his just desserts. Just 1 second before Shino's foot struck his face, sending him flying into the arena. After he said, your fight is with Mei, coward, the bug user pursued him. In a split second, Naruto's attitude completely changed. He scanned the area intensely with his eyes. As he snatched up his laser gun and aimed it at the head of an auto nin who was fighting Kurenai, he growled, attack my home After saying, not on my watch assholes, he fired. A green beam of energy pierced her opponent's head, leaving a smoking hole behind, and Kurenai gasped. What the? She asked as she watched Naruto drop the weapon, his eyes a blizzard of cold. She let out a gasp. With a mighty roar, Naruto leapt into the air after swishing his cape. He yelled, rapid fire, as the beams started to rain out of the gun. In some cases, enemy nin were defeated. Weapons and armor were like butter melted through. The Konoha nin hesitated, choosing instead to gaze in disbelief at Naruto's cruelty. He exclaimed, ha, eat this. Baki ducked as he fired the gun at him again, seldom. What is that thing? Smirking, Naruto pointed once more. Your demise. However, his attention was briefly drawn to something. He gasped when he heard it. With a shout of, Naruto, look out! Sasuke pushed the boy away from a sand wave that Gaara had sent. "Mother will have your blood." Naruto jolted out of it, but he was unable to look away from the cage box, where Orochimaru and the elderly man were surrounded by a purple barrier. Temari grabbed Gaara after Sasuke had just inserted another Chidori into his shoulder, and he ran after him. Naruto watched in disbelief as the battle unfolded and quickly came to a conclusion. The old man's not gonna win like this. He paid no attention to the battle raging around him. It was unclear how he avoided being hit by a stray kunai, but there he was, gazing up at the purple barrier. Shikamaru, Pakun, Sakura, and Kakashi appeared beside him. Naruto followed Sasuke. He went after Gaara. Naruto, however, did not hear him. He moved without thinking. "Not today, Snake Boy. You won't win while Uzumaki Naruto lives here." Then he bit his thumb and performed the hand signals, causing waves of chakra to shoot out of him, waking up the civilians and washing over the arena. The genjutsu was also washed away like old satin on a glass window. Kachiyose no Jutsu. Then 55 of them appeared in a huge puff of smoke. They all shone like metal statues in the sunlight. Sky.net and the Terminators. A lone sentinel hovered over them, with Naruto standing atop it like a king of the dark. The sentinel remained still until Naruto's voice could be heard throughout the village. "Anyone that's inside that barrier that is not the old man is to be killed, understand?" In response, the sentinel beeped several times. Naruto grinned. "Good." Then he glanced down at the Terminators and Sky.net. "Hello again, human," the mechanism said. Naruto grinned. After saying, "So I got you guys on my first try he grinned slyly. "Good, because I have some ninjas for you to kill." Naruto gestured to his headband and said, "Oh? In this village are humans bearing this symbol. The ones that don't bear this symbol but bear a different one? Those are you targets." Sky.net smiled. His left arm changed into a tiny cannon with a glowing blue barrel, and the Terminators underwent similar changes. "It will be a pleasure." The T-X, like Sky.net, acquired a silver metallic human appearance, while the T.1000 were more like metal walking skeletons but more sophisticated human killing machines. Then the carnage started. Then Naruto pulled his scroll off his back, smeared it with a little blood, and conjured up a blue board with 2 glowing rings on the underside. When Naruto started to float, he jumped onto the board and stunned everyone. "Now go." A whole village of stunned onlookers watched as he took off, shooting through the air towards the forest and Sasuke as the sentinel fired at the barrier. The Sound 4 had a single thought as a huge mechanical flying squid creature grabbed hold of their barrier and used a highly concentrated red beam of energy to sever it like butter. That was the thought. "Oh fucking crap." The sentinel then pushed the remaining path through the barrier and landed on the first and second Hokage's revived bodies. The tentacles began whipping out, and Sarutobi gasped. The second was caught by one and crashed into the mud wall of Sarutobi. The first responded more quickly. Returning to Orochimaru's side, he jumped over one of the sentinel's tentacles and began making hand signals. As the trees inside the barrier came to life and tried to contain the machine by shoving wood and roots out, the machine whirred and buzzed. With unprecedented speed, the sentinel's tentacles swung out, shattering the wood as violently as the wood continued to struggle to contain it. Orochimaru and Sarutobi simply watched as monstrosities engaged in combat. In its most basic form, it was a collision between nature and machine. At last, a massive root emerged from the ground and wrapped itself around the sentinel multiple times, completely obscuring it. The first appeared somewhat worn out but also content. Then Orochimaru laughed. "What an amazing piece of technology. I didn't know there was a summoning contract for such things or that such things existed. This machine will make an excellent research specimen." The second Hokage returned to his side, and he returned his focus to Sarutobi. "Now where were we?" A red beam of energy erupted from the wood prison just as Sarutobi was about to strike, burning away a round section with a high-pitched screech that was nearly too high for human ears to detect. The sentinel then appeared, looking as irritated as a machine of that kind could appear before it began to rotate. Without any delay, the first and second started performing their jutsus. The sentinel then released what appeared to be a miniature version of itself directly at Orochimaru and the two cages, just as a massive wave of water and a massive wooden spike were aimed at the machine. It then deftly avoided the two cages' attacks. As the tiny replica fixed Orochimaru's eyes, he asked in utter fascination, "What is?" It exploded a second later, shredding everything nearby in a fanciful display of metal fragments and fire. Before Sarutobi could even gasp, a massive metal form rushed toward him. "Sweet Kami." shouted an Anbu participant. What the hell is that thing? To think that boy is able to summon such a powerful creature. Where did he get such a contract? The 4 members of the Sound 4 who were maintaining the barrier gasped at what they saw when the smoke cleared. The sentinel was laying protectively in front of Sarutobi, assessing the seriously wounded Orochimaru after taking the brunt of the blast like a bully takes a weak child's punch to the stomach. And when I say severely injured, I mean that 20 yards to the left, half of his body was writhing pitifully while the other half lay in front of the sentinel. The Kusanagi was a shattered jumble of metal fragments, and blood was all over. The first and second Hokages were then ensnared in the tentacle's sudden lashing out. The barrier was lowered as the Sound 4 became alarmed. Kidomaru yelled, "Get Orochimaru Sama out of here," as he expertly used his bloodline limit to seize Orochimaru's lower half, while the large one grabbed the upper half. When the Anbu tried to capture them, the Sound 4 had already vanished, but the Sentinel's tentacle almost severed one of the 2-headed one's heads. As the Anbu hurried to him, Sarutobi stood there expressionless. His brain had shut down, and Enma had reverted to his former state, appearing equally as shocked. For a few seconds, the Sentinel turned to look at the Hokage. The machine gave a few contented buzzes before disappearing in a cloud of smoke, taking the 2 Hokages with it. The Anbu tensed, fearing that it would attack. At last, Sarutobi lost his temper and fell to the ground. He said, "Naruto, you saved my life," before passing out from exhaustion. The shocked expressions at Naruto's earlier use of the Kachiyose soon subsided once they were back in the arena. Actually, the explanation is fairly straightforward. "You heard the boy. Destroy the targets," was Sky Net's yell, and the Terminators then began to move in all directions, traveling in groups of 2 and 3 before brutally attacking Otto and Suna's ninja. One extremely fortunate Otto Nin jumped high into the air over 6 rays of thermal energy and exclaimed, "Holy shit." In fact, that was all he could do. After wasting his kunai on Konoha Shinobi, he could already tell that the creatures that Brad had summoned were tough. He moved to separate himself from them as soon as he touched down. He had no intention of confronting them until he was aware of their capabilities. And as they massacred his fellows, he watched in horror. The Terminator's guns exploded in bursts of red, blue, or green, tearing through Konoha's adversaries. He was frightened by the physical strength of each machine. In a vicious demonstration, he saw one of the machines grab a rather large Otto Nin by the neck with far too much ease before slamming its metal hand into his chest and tearing out the heart. He was aware that they were machines, but he was unsure of the type. Was there something new Konoha was working on? He had no idea, and the fact that these devices appeared to be designed with the express purpose of killing people frightened him. When fear finally got the better of him, he started to run. He struck directly at Sky.net, who smiled in the most malevolent way he had ever seen, and his head was reduced to crushed ruins before he could scream in fear. The Terminator leader said, "Cowardly human," before he noticed the many enormous snakes. After smirking and turning both arms into a huge Gatling gun with a long chain of bullets trailing from the machine and to the ground, Sky Net's eyes actually widened in fascination. "This era certainly is an interesting one," he said. Then he aimed. The Sonny and the 3 different factions of ninja in the area watched in amazement as the snakes' heads were literally reduced to chunks of meat, sending bone and brain matter splattering all over the ground before the snakes vanished in puffs of smoke. Jiraiya had just arrived on the scene of the giant snakes and was about to make a dramatic introduction when he summoned a toad large enough to crush Orochimaru's summons into nothingness when something suddenly tore through the snakes like rocks would through butter. There were hundreds of them, like little bugs intent on getting to their destination no matter what stood in their way, and the snakes just so happened to be the poor saps. All right. How in the hell was that? Following the trajectory of the projectiles, Ibiki turned eastward and smirked as he met the eyes of a silver man with transformed arms in the distance, then saw the devastation the other Terminators were causing to the enemy ninjas. Sama Jiraiya. Those are what the fuck. When an Otto Nin dealt one of the walking death machines a lucky blow that caused it to disappear in a puff of smoke, the Sonny could only gape. They're Simmons. However, who is? The blur shot through the air above them from Konoha, but neither of them saw it. Naruto had a blank expression on his face, and his eyes were half closed, as though he didn't care about the world. Or perhaps it was the wind pelting his face as he sped on his hoverboard in the direction of Sasuke and Gaara. Well, let's accept that explanation. Naruto's thoughts were racing. How was he going to accomplish this? Should he reveal something new or sweep in and use his lightsaber to take heads off? For a moment, his gaze strayed to the wooden stick on his belt, which seemed like a good place to reveal. But He sighed as he flew over the forest, green and brown blurring. Might as well get this over with. People are so gonna laugh when they hear about this, he thought. No amount of technology could ever make up for the sheer ridiculousness of the wooden stick and what it actually is, even if it were the main accomplishment of the era it represents. He was fumbling with his scroll. Sasuke Uchiha is a cold-hearted bastard who is ambitious, talented, and attractive. Some of his more vile fangirls have even called him gay, and he has even resisted other boys who are vying for their attention. However, until about 30 seconds ago, it was impossible to say anything about Sasuke except that he understands what it's like to be genuinely, completely freaked out. Sasuke already knew that something was seriously wrong with the Sand Nin, so the surprise factor of his transformation was pretty low on the scale. And no, it wasn't because Gaara was facing him, half-animal sand raccoonified, and drooling like a mental patient from behind jagged sharp teeth. No, he was terrified because the moment he attempted to perform another Chidoriya, completely forgetting that he had used his two back in the arena, the cursed seal came into play, causing its tainted chakra to flood his body. Normally, that wouldn't be a bad thing in this kind of situation. In fact, it would typically be seen as a big fat ass lifesaver and a gift from Kami. But shit tends to unravel quickly when that seal activates, causing a huge hand wing to burst from your right shoulder, half of your face to turn gray or purple, and your lips to take on the color of purple lipstick. And that's how Naruto discovered them, with Sakura yelling in fear and pointing at both fighters, Gaara advancing for the kill, and Sasuke on his knees, staring at his new limb with hilariously large eyes. Gaara lunged. Naruto leapt from his hoverboard and knocked the Sand Nin back with a slam of his foot against his head. After assessing the situation for 2 seconds, Naruto gestured toward the partially changed Sasuke. "Hate to get bitch slapped by that thing," he said, turning to Sakura as the hoverboard descended toward him. He grabbed the girl with the pink hair by the waist and lifted her onto the hoverboard before she could ask him what it was. "What are you doing?" Sakura was about to yell again when Naruto spoke, but he ignored her and put her feet on the board. "Lean forward for acceleration, stand straight up to slow to a stop and lean back to rise into the air, stick to it with chakra and lean to the side you want to turn to." "What are you?" Sakura said, her eyes widening. "Go back to Konoha and help the people there," Naruto said. "You will be more useful there than here." As Sakura's inner self emerged, her eyes took on an unholy rage. "Are you calling me weak?" A month ago, before he gained his new knowledge, his new perspective, and his new self-assurance, Naruto would have given in and become a stuttering, pitiful mess in the face of her rage. Her face was red, and instead of cowering, he just smirked and slapped her in the ass, making her eep loudly as she jerked into a backward arch to try to hide her stinging butt cheeks. WTF the death was that? At that moment, she became aware of her steady ascent into the air. "Return to Konoha, Sakura, please. You won't crash if you keep in mind the directions I gave you." Sakura eventually noticed the tone of his voice. It was strong, commanding, and domineering. His words carried power, the kind of power that made her realize she had no choice but to follow the blonde's instructions. When did he become so manly? He's gonna pay for doing that, she thought as she grudgingly flew back towards the village, blushing a little and rubbing her slightly tingling ass. Naruto was relieved that Sakura was gone because he no longer had to worry about Gaara catching her. Surprisingly, Gaara chose to stay and observe the entire process of getting Sakura to leave. Naruto was so vulnerable that he could have sworn he was saying, "Come get me, man. I'm more helpless than a newborn kitten." The Sand Nin didn't take advantage of the fact that he was speaking to Sakura. Instead, he simply stood there, his half-beastly face wearing a silly, perplexed look. Unwilling to snub a gift horse, Naruto decided that the fight should probably start. He turned to face Sasuke, who was now standing again, but the cursed seal nodded and showed no signs of retracting. "You can rest now. Control that mutation." Normally, Sasuke would have turned down Naruto's assistance, but he had more pressing concerns, and since mutation was the primary issue, he turned and went to a safer location. "Don't die, Dobi. I believe that he is harboring a monster. He calls whatever he's talking to Mother, and talks to himself like a crazy person." "Well, Mama's boy is in for a spanking," Naruto said, nodding as he reached for his lightsaber and activated it in a lovely display of glowing orange. Gaara grinned and said, "It's you? The haughty one with the bad breath. Since earlier today, your mother has desired your blood." Examining the beast aspect of Gaara, Naruto felt a wave of shock wash over him as his mind processed what Sasuke had said. "Another demon container? I had no idea there was more. He's off his rocker, which is a damn shame. If not, I might have found someone with whom I could identify. With a sly smile, he assumed the position Grievous had taught him and said, "Let's dance sandy pants." With a growl, Gaara lifted his arm and said, "Your blood will go to mother." Then his ominous looking appendage grew and sprang at him. Yes, I've heard enough about your mother's vampirism to last me a month," Naruto sighed, avoiding the arm with ease. "My question is, where the fuck is she?" He hurled several shuriken, but Gaara's arm easily deflected them. "Because all I've heard is some half-wit crazy boy talking a bunch of shit." Naruto simply smirked and pointed his lightsaber directly at Gaara, who snarled loudly and launched himself at him in a startling display of speed. He began spinning very quickly, turning into a blur of orange and white. Gaara's sand arm was literally ripped to smoking sand and glass fragments, and Temari gasped nearby. It ain't perfect like Grievous," Naruto smirked as he stopped spinning, while Gaara sprang back to avoid the energy blade and glared. Only his torso can be rotated by the cheating ass machine, but it functions adequately. Then he stood up once more. Cared to try again? Demon wrath clouded Gaara's thoughts. "No one makes a fool of me," he exclaimed as more sand exploded off of him and gathered around him, creating a miniature Ichibi with only Gaara's legs remaining. Then Naruto had to jump up to avoid being turned into Swiss cheese by the sand bullets Gaara was suddenly throwing at him. "Wella, that's new." Naruto deflected the majority of the sand projectiles, but he took 2 more in the stomach and 1 in the shoulder. "Ah crap, this isn't good." He was slammed into a tree by the force of their impact. The lightsaber almost dropped out of his grasp, but he managed to hold on and take a deep breath. "Not so tough now, are you? Now die." "Suna shuriken," Gaara exclaimed with a fit of laughter. Naruto had barely stood up when he was struck by multiple sand bullets once more, forcing him through the tree this time. He screamed, "Oh come on," as he hit a particularly dense tree. Beside him, Sasuke landed. He still had the mutant hand wing protruding from his shoulder, but his face had returned to normal. Naruto staggered back to his feet and grunted in agony. As he prepared the lightsaber once more, he complained, "Damn him and his fucking sand." Sasuke just gave a snort. "What did you expect, Dobi? You've seen him fight before." Naruto gave a shrug. Then, with a display of speed that was even more impressive than Gaara's, he shot straight at Gaara and said, "I've seen a lot of shit in the last month." As Naruto approached him directly, Sasuke's eyes widened in shock. "Such speed, Wendita?" Naruto was prepared for Gaara's lunge as well. Eat this mama's boy." Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 6 Narutos emerged, and they all pummeled Gaara's ugly beast mug with their boots. Naruto fell upon the sand Jinchuriki as he was slammed into the ground, his lightsaber ready to impale him through the chest. If Gaara's tail hadn't suddenly lashed out and slapped him into yet another tree, it would have also worked. Naruto gasped as the air was sucked out of his lungs once more, but Gaara's demonic hands closed around him before he could catch his breath. What now, Uzumaki Naruto? Did you honestly believe that you could defeat me?" The blonde's breathing became more difficult as the demonic limbs tightened their hold on her. Gaara took a sick pleasure in giving Naruto his last breath. He detested one pair of eyes on this boy. This annoying annoyance. Without fear, those eyes peered into his own. Eyes of someone who genuinely thought he could confront and defeat him. It was a farce. This garbage was about to perish, painfully and slowly. Despite being squeezed like a fucking grape, Naruto began to speak as he dropped his lightsaber to the ground, where it instantly deactivated. "Wella, I must admit that I was underestimating you. I guess I'm still high on adrenaline from whooping Neji's bitch ass all over the stadium." He took in more air. After saying, "And now I feel like an ass," he grinned at Gaara. "However, that means I'm done taking this little showdown lightly. You wanna know why I think I can beat your red-headed ass all over this forest?" Naruto moved slightly and wrapped his hand around his belt's wooden stick. He removed it from his belt with a few deft finger movements and aimed it at the Jinchuriki. Naruto yelled before Gaara, Temari, and Sasuke could inquire about the nature of that absurd-looking stick. "It's because I can. Reducto." The stick's end exploded with silver light, impacting Gaara's arm and causing the sand to implode before exploding in a frenzied display of desert mineral devastation. When Naruto emerged from the sand, everyone's eyes widened. As Gaara stood there in shock, Sasuke yelled, "What the hell was that?" With a sly smile, Naruto grabbed his lightsaber and put it back on his belt. "Hey mama's boy, do you believe in magic?" Gaara's arms slowly reformed and he growled. He pointed the stick once more and said, "Because I sure didn't until a month ago. Come on." Gaara's arms fully reformed and immediately launched themselves at Naruto. The idea that things like magic wands, flying broomsticks, and crystal balls actually existed was enough to make even 6-year-olds laugh, he said. Gaara hurled himself at Naruto once more with the intention of tearing him to pieces, saying, "Enough babble. Fight and die by my hands." Naruto leapt over Gaara and used another reducto to blast him. But then I found out that there was actually an entire era dedicated to magic. Real magic. Complete with witches, wizards and fairies and all of that corny shit. Gaara threw a ball of wind at him, but Naruto quickly deflected it with another shout of transfiguration, and transformed a nearby boulder into an extremely powerful metal shield. Sasuke could only marvel at Naruto's newly discovered powers. What was this? To acquire all of this power, where did the dobe fall? He must have known. The shield changed into a red metal object with a long, thick hose attached after another shout of transformation. With another smirk, Naruto unlocked a latch. A very heavy stream of water exploded out of the hose and slammed into Gaara before he could charge again. As he kept hurling water at Gaara, Naruto laughed uncontrollably. "Huh? Fire hydrant power is awesome." The redhead collapsed on his back, breathing heavily, and Gaara could only gasp in shock as his sand was torn from his body in muddy globs that fell to the ground. With the stick aimed at Gaara, Naruto fell from the sky and landed at his side, saying, "Give up or I reducto the shit out of your head, and trust me when I say no one here would like that." "I would," Sasuke said as he landed beside Naruto, his right arm covered in markings resembling black flames, the cursed seal having mostly retracted. Sasuke was about to reply when a huge wave of sand exploded from beneath the ground and shot straight up into the air, sending Naruto and Sasuke in separate directions. "Well, you're bloodthirsty anyway," Naruto said. "I will not let go of a guy like you," Gaara exclaimed in a drastically changed voice, and Naruto came back in time to witness the dust disperse, revealing a massive sand raccoon dog with glowing yellow eyes and Gaara protruding from the waist up. "Oh my god, that's so damn cheap." Gazing at the enormous demon in front of him, Naruto screamed. Temari decided to move to a far safer distance nearby. "What will you do now, Naruto Uzumaki?" Gaara chuckled. "Are you able to face my mother's power?" "Mom? You call your mother like that? Whoa, I thought your mom was a hot, bloodthirsty vampire wannabe. No tanuki at all." "Still you mock me. No longer. Die," Gaara snarled. For the 5th time in the past few minutes, Naruto's eyes widened as he was seized by sand once more. "Crap, now what?" With his mind racing, Naruto muttered, "What the hell could keep him from dying? Shit, this ain't good." He never heard Sasuke shouting his name as the sand gradually covered his body. "Oh wait," he exclaimed abruptly as a thought suddenly sprang to him. He quickly bit his thumb and started looking through the Kachiyose no Jutsu signs. "Please let this work." The more the sand covered his victim, the louder Gaara's smile became. "Die now." Sand cough. Kachiyose no Jutsu. Temari and Sasuke both gasped, and Gaara's eyes widened as a huge red, blue-jacketed pipe. Smoking toad emerged in a puff of smoke. However, Naruto ended up sitting on the enormous toad's head after the sand surrounding him was blown away during the process. God damn, that's tiring. As if he had just finished challenging Guy to a 30-lap race around Konoha, Naruto was stooped and panting. Despite feeling as though he lacked chakra, he couldn't resist grinning. Well, at least it worked. I had forgotten all about the toads. The huge toad took a drag from his pipe, his eyes closed in frustration. "What the hell is this crap, Jiraiya? You really expect me to fight the Shukaku?" To get the toad's attention, Naruto slapped his head lightly and let his perspiration fall. "I'm the one who summoned you, and yes, I expect you to help me fight. It's what summons do, right?" The toad scoffed when he looked up and saw a blonde he had never even known existed. "Brat, I'm not interested. Go hiking and don't call me ever again." The toad then disappeared in a cloud of smoke, as simple as that. No longer there, and not in a particularly anticlimactic way. Shocked and a little amused, Sasuke and Temari simply watched. "Are you really fucking me?" As he fell to the ground, Naruto yelled, "That's bullshit. You fucking asshole, at least give me back my chakra." Naruto looked up weary after landing hard in a crouch on a big tree. "Damn it." The forest reverberated with Gaara's laughter. "Ha ha 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 ha. I was worried for a second because of you. But now you're dead. Face your mother's real power." After making a few more hand gestures, Gaara yelled, "False sleep technique." The demon's eyes glowed a brighter yellow and seemed to come even more alive before Gaara passed out and Yukai flooded the area before Naruto could ask what was going on. After a moment of looking around as though perplexed, the Shukaku yelled. "Oh my goodness, Shukaku is out and prepared to spill blood, baby, hurry up and do it." "Oh my god, you must be pulling my leg." Naruto stared up at the beast. Sasuke and Temari appeared on either side of him. "We're dead. We're so dead." Sasuke was considering releasing the cursed seal while Temari was trembling like a leaf. "Naruto, do you not have anything that can assist us in your scroll?" The Uchiha also sounded scared and desperate. Naruto's eyes grew wide. "You know that you're a fucking genius, Sasuke?" "Well, I am a Uchiha after all," he declared mockingly, "so go ahead and hurry up." "I can't believe I didn't think of this in the first place," Naruto said, shrugging and grabbing his scroll. "If I had, we wouldn't be dealing with all of this nonsense at the moment." He swiped his thumb across the seals after biting it once more. Saying, "Here babe, hold my wand," he gave Temari the wooden stick. "You just mentioned a wand?" Sasuke asked incredulously. The Shukaku, meanwhile, had just spotted them and exclaimed, "Oh, there you are. Get ready to die bitches, ha 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 ha." Naruto smirked as something long, heavy, and made of metal materialized in a puff of smoke after channeling chakra into his scroll's storage seal. It appeared to be a massively altered and duplicated model of his laser gun. It had a handle protruding from the side and was resting on a stand. The weapon had a groove in the large handle for a shoulder, and numerous lights glowed along the barrel. Adjusting the device onto his shoulder and focusing on his eye through a scope, Naruto knelt down. Grabbing lever, he inhaled deeply. The Shukaku puffed up its enormous belly after taking in a great deal of air. "Hey Uchiha, help me keep this steady will ya?" "Wait, what are you doing?" Naruto aimed and pressed a couple of buttons. Energy seemed to be sucked into the barrel as the things began to hum loudly. "Just grab the other handle and brace yourself. This is your end." Massive air bullet. From the Shukaku's mouth, a huge ball of compressed pure energy exploded, directly aimed at them. Terrified, Temari froze. Sasuke exclaimed, "Now would be a great time to do something." Naruto took a deep breath and steadied the big gun. Naruto maintained his composure despite a massive windball threatening them. He was forced to. "Ancient technological relic number 558 inches," he said. He squeezed the trigger, and the Shukaku were showered with devastation. From the end of the barrel, golden outlined blue light burst forth with a loud whoosh and a kickback that almost knocked Sasuke and Naruto off their feet. With such force that it actually overtook and absorbed the wind, the energy blasted straight through the windball. As the beam sailed toward the demon, rings of wind formed around it. Rocks, dirt, and trees were ripped apart as if nothing had happened, and a shockwave echoed back to Konoha. Shukaku barely had time to say, "Wah," before the beam exploded through his stomach, consuming everything in a tremendous burst of energy and sound. A pair of wide-eyed genin were staring at Naruto in freaking amazement as he stood facing the epicenter while the forest and Shukaku were being destroyed. "It was just wave motion cannon," Naruto said. As the winds from the blast of his weapon started to subside, Naruto stood there. His cape and hair were blowing everywhere, and the scroll containing the many artifacts from the past was strapped to his back once more. Shukaku had long since stopped screaming. After the dust settled, all they had to do was wait for the results. "Sorry if he was important to you, because I seriously doubt there's anything left after that," Naruto said with a smug grin before turning back to Temari. The sand kunoichi was left to stare in horror as he then took back his wand and fastened it to his belt. Sasuke was staring at the wave motion cannon, Naruto's weapon. His gaze was wide and thoughtful. This thing's power is so strong that Itachi couldn't possibly defeat it. Almost without thinking, he said, "Dobi, can I have this?" Without really responding to the Uchiha's question, Naruto laughed as he leapt from the tree and began to move in the direction of the blast zone where Shukaku had once been. With a sigh, Sasuke simply followed him. But first, he strapped the wave motion cannon to his back to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. This made things a little more difficult because the weapon is heavier and longer than he is. Concerned for her brother, Temari trailed behind them. Naruto, Sasuke, and Temari arrived at the location of Shukaku to find a huge smoking crater encircled by shattered glass fragments that ranged in size from as large as a pen to as large as an absurdly tiny building. Temari and Naruto would have commented on how lovely the area was, with rainbow lights dancing everywhere like a fantasy ballet, if the situation hadn't been so serious. And Gaara was right in the middle of that crater. He was lying on his back, naked, with multiple areas of his body badly burned. He was awake. How? He was breathing deeply, and no one could ever guess. After giving him a quick glance, Naruto pulled out his lightsaber and advanced on him. He started by asking, "Ya no?" grabbing Gaara's attention and causing him to gasp in alarm. "You and I have a lot in common." He paused beside Gaara and aimed the lightsaber at her throat. "Okay, maybe not as much in common outside of the whole sealed demon thing, but hey. I imagine your childhood sucked major ass as well." Temari and Sasuke gasped behind him. "But I gotta honestly say, you're giving us demon containers a bad name by acting like a depraved psychopath bent on drinking the blood of your slain victims and claiming a giant sand and obviously male tanuki to be your mother. Since when the fuck do you know what standards demon containers are supposed to go by?" he asked, ignoring the voice in the back of his mind. Naruto appeared to consider ripping off Gaara's head, but Gaara just kept staring with wide, terrified eyes. "And I wonder what exactly drove you to this point in insanity, but I'd be a damn fool to judge you simply on that basis." He frowned abruptly. "But when you come here acting like king shit, threatening my home, even if said home is full of retarded retards, and you open yourself up to an ass whooping. Don't think I didn't have a lot of knowledge about your sand, and let me tell you I have several things sealed within this scroll that can render your sand useless." He let out another sigh. "It's a shame. I actually saw a kindred spirit in you. Oh well." Sasuke and Temari would have openly gaped at the unsettlingly casual manner in which he was going to murder someone if they had been with him. Hell, if they bred soldiers like that to the point where even young people had no emotions, they would likely be up for days wondering and questioning the village he comes from. However, such a reaction never occurred because it was only Sasuke and Temari, who have both been intimately, personally, and closely associated with that sadistic bitch known as the Mistress of Death. However, an equally unexpected reaction did occur. Temari screamed, "No," as she appeared to teleport into the path of Naruto's lightsaber. Naruto barely had time to retract his blade before his eyes widened like saucers. Therefore, he left a relatively shallow burning slash across her back rather than severing her in half as was about to happen. She screamed in agony as the lightsaber danced across her back, burning the cloth there and filling the air with the stench of smoking flesh, which strangely reminded Naruto of beef jerky. Both Naruto and Sasuke winced. Temari embraced her brother with all her strength, ignoring the pain. With tears welling up on the corners of her eyes, she turned to glare at Naruto and Sasuke. "Don't," she said. Her voice was desperate and begging, "Please spare him." Naruto's determination to decapitate Gaara was weakened by that glance. Sasuke simply crossed his arms and sighed, not really giving a damn. All he wanted was to return home, rest, and attempt to persuade Naruto to grant him that cannon. In contrast, Naruto had actually deactivated and lowered his weapon. He stared for a full 10 seconds, his eyes fixed on Temari's. Then he let out a sigh. Then, with Sasuke at his side, he turned and made his way back towards Konoha, saying, "Okay, leave while you can. Dobi, you never answered whether or not I could have this thing." Naruto laughed again, and Temari listened, and Sasuke gave a frustrated growl. Her smile was one of appreciation. "Thank you, Naruto. Kun." She then turned to face her astonished brother and stood up shakily. "Come on," she said, ignoring the flinch in her back as she raised him up. Gaara could only nod in agreement. "Let's find Kankuro's dumb ass and go home." One would be appalled at how pitiful Konoha and Naruto's summons made Otto and Suna appear if they were watching the invasion of Konoha from above or from a different dimension, like a television program. Before it had a chance to start, the damn attack was over. With the Konoha ninjas at their sides, the Terminators fought with equal ferocity as they tore through their victims like paper. In fact, the battle was over so fast that everyone had time to gasp when the enormous Shukaku form appeared in their forest. Then a huge blast of energy literally disintegrates them. Hell! They even had enough time to question Sakura non-stop when she returned to the village on the hoverboard Naruto had lent her. She was desperate to find out if she knew the ninja who had defeated their enemy so decisively. Word was getting out fast, and some people already knew. Although Sakura was a little irritated that she was not included in the action, she also asked herself, "Who the hell am I kidding? I would have gotten in the way." Naturally, such a thought was extremely depressing, but she was forced to confront it. She had to reassess her priorities after witnessing Naruto surpass her in skill and surpass her in order to compete with Sasuke. But as soon as she touched down and fastened the hoverboard to her back, an Anbu materialized in front of her, interrupting her train of thought. "Haruno Sakura, Hokage. Sama and the council wish to see you right now." The girl gulped and headed for the Hokage Tower. Sky.net and the Terminators greeted Naruto and Sasuke when they returned to Konoha. Enemy terminated, the machine smirked evilly. Sweat fell from Naruto's eyes as he looked around the village and saw the remains of the unfortunate saps who had been captured by one of the robots. Well okay then, good job. Like any other 13-year-old boy, Sasuke was instantly enthralled with the machines and felt compelled to approach and prod Sky.net, asking, "What the hell is this?" Only a millisecond later, Naruto was able to save him from the plasma blast. "Geez, you fool, Sasuke!" exclaimed the blonde as the Terminator leader grinned evilly. The Uchiha looked quite shaken but was also glaring at Sky.net with a fully activated Sharingan. "What the hell was that for?" he insisted. "He hates humans," Naruto sighed, adding, "Don't let him catch you alone." After giving the boy a fierce look, Sky.net said, "I'm not that desperate for the bones of you flesh sacks." He rolled his eyes and said, "Yeah, sure." But Sasuke kept glaring for 2 more seconds before Naruto took the wave motion cannon off his back and sealed it back into his scroll. "Thanks for holding that for me, Sasuke," he said, grinning as Sasuke snarled, "Wanting that damn cannon." Sasuke's annoyance appeared to be noticed by Naruto, who smiled. Finally fed up with being ignored, Sky.net snorted and gave Naruto a rather savage jab in the ribs. "Oh, you're a metalhead," he cried out. "I'm heading out. I've survived this long without killing any more of you humans, which is already awful." "Oh, you drama queen, stop talking." Then he sighed and made a shooing motion with his hand. "Beat it. Inform the others that I said hello." More questions about his blonde teammate surfaced as Sky.net glared with a mixture of amusement and annoyance. "Until next time," he said as he and the Terminators disappeared in smoke. Sasuke was in awe of the sight of wands, energy swords, strong projectile weapons, and an army of living machines. Sighing, Naruto prepared to address Sasuke once more when 2 Anbu appeared out of nowhere. Naruto Uzumaki. The Anbu vanished, and Naruto sighed once more. "You and Uchiha Sama are to be at the council chambers in 10 minutes. He muttered, "Damn, that shit was fast," and Sasuke nodded, already figuring out what the council was looking for. Deus Ex Machina couldn't help but raise an eyebrow when the sentinel reappeared in front of her, holding the hunched over forms of the first and second Hokage. "Oh," eyeing the 2 humans in her pet's grasp, she started. "What have you brought me?" The Deus Ex Machina's eyes widened in surprise as the sentinel made a few buzzing noises and then blasted the 2 Hokages with X-ray light, revealing the trapped forms of Kin and Zaku below. She smirked and said, "What an interesting technique," as her own eyes showed her the seal tagged kunai that bound the Hokage souls to the sacrificed bodies. As she gave the sentinel the order to lower the 2 prisoners, a plan began to take shape in her mind. "Let's see if I can't fix this." The council meeting was a complete surprise. When he and Sasuke entered, they were greeted by the council's steady gaze, Jiraiya, Ibiki, and Sarutobi, who appeared to have just woken from a beating induced coma. He was also taken aback to see Sakura and Shikamaru present. "Ah, yeah. How are things going for everyone?" Several pairs of eyes narrowed ever so slightly as the blonde rubbed the back of his head and began to laugh nervously. "Uzumaki Naruto," said Sarutobi's advisor Hamura, "you can probably already guess why you've been called here." "Yes, but what are the 3 of them doing here?" He pointed to Sakura, Sasuke, and Shikamaru and asked. "Because they seem to be the only ones who know most about those weapons you have." Naruto gulped in anxiety at this. Oh no, this was the last thing he needed at the moment. "And?" he asked, hesitantly. "Where did you get them?" "What the fuck do you mean? You should already know," was Naruto's next statement, but he froze. "Holy shit, they don't know. How the fuck did that happen? Didn't I blurt it out to the whole freaking world? Huh, what luck." With ease, he stated, they were an inheritance. And it was accurate. He had inherited that city as a human. He heard it directly from the machines. "I don't believe you, boy," a bandaged old man said. "You are an orphan. No one knows who your parents were and no one cares. So tell the truth." Naruto took a breath and replied, "Yeah, well, I didn't say I inherited them from my long-lost parents. How corny would that shit be? Besides, I don't need any parents. After all, I survived without them for this long, right? You however are close to dying right here if ya don't watch what you say, you old bastard." At his response, Sakura, Shikamaru, and Sasuke all gasped. As Shikamaru thought, damn, Naruto must have balls of steel to say that. Dangerously, the man's only visible eye narrowed, and Naruto was already getting ready to call forth Sky.net once more, consequences be damned. He was no longer a target of abuse. Danzo, watch your mouth or I'll kill you myself. I'm not in the mood for your pompousness today. Let the boy speak and refrain from insulting him, Sarutobi said, releasing a blast of murderous intent as he gave the elderly man a fierce glare. In fact, Danzo and many other council members flinched in disbelief. Hamura, Kaharu, and Danzo were not pleased. Sarutobi, are you really going to let him get away with threatening a member of the council? Hey, I just saved her asses from a fucking biju. A biju. I can say whatever the fuck I want to. I'm entitled that much if you fools have such a poor level of gratitude. Sarutobi suddenly went demon style on them with the amount of killing intent he was aiming at the council, proving that a near-death experience can transform a man. Shikamaru, Sakura, and Sasuke were speechless. They were clearly watching a feud, and an old one at that. What on earth was happening? Sasuke was certain that it was related to Naruto's statement about being a demon container made earlier after he had wasted Gaara. However, the council forced themselves to relax because of Sarutobi's aura, which practically shouted, "Say the wrong thing and I'm going to ass rape you with your own fucking dismembered dicks." Naruto also relaxed as a result, and after a short while he spoke. A few glares were directed at him, but he chose to ignore them. If y'all wanna know what's going on, I'll be happy to tell you some stuff. Y'all don't have to be such asses about it. He smiled when he considered the vast array of shadow clones he could produce. Besides, it's not like I'd be doing any good by trying to be greedy. I can't use all the shit I have anyway. There's only one of Maya technically. Inuzuka Sume, who, if she was being honest with herself, found the boy's attitude amusing and was greatly impressed by his strength and perseverance, asked, "Just how much do you have in your possession?" She witnessed the burning of the Shukaku and those machines he called forth. It was visible to anyone with working eyes. Admittedly, she wished she was a little younger. He smiled. 7 golden ages and 2 dark ages, he stated. It's as easy as that. That was all he had to say to make his point. And it got across. Sakura yelled, "Are you serious?" As the other council members gasped, Jiraiya face planted, and Ibiki choked on his tea, which he had inexplicably obtained at the last minute. Naruto couldn't contain his laughter at their answers. "Well, I don't have EVERYTHIGN on me, Buddha. Yeah, you get the idea." A few more people gasped. "Yeah, it's amazing what we are actually capable of. All of the things I have are things we had created sometime in the past. All y'all really need to understand is that these things are freaking old, hecka old. Well, except for my lightsaber. I built that like 2 days ago." The astonished looks on the faces made him smirk. Inoichi Yamanaka raised her voice. "I saw you summon Thosia machines. Where did you get such a powerful summoning contract?" Naruto gave a shrug. Then he complained, "Oh, that? It was made for me by them. They offered. I still don't fucking know how the hell Deus even managed to create that scroll, but oh well." He turned to Jiraiya after grinning. "Oh, and speaking of summons, you, me and a certain bastard toad are gonna have a little chat when this is done. I don't like being insulted and ditched while fighting a giant fucking sand demon in order to save my home because of a retardedly inflated ego. Your frog's fucking dead. I hope you let him know." When Sasuke said, "I'm going to help him," they nearly defeated that demon because of that fucking slime ball. As he continued to consider that weapon, his thoughts drifted away. If Naruto hadn't drawn that cannon. Jiraiya arched an eyebrow in perplexity and doubt. Though he wasn't positive, Jiraiya could tell by the look in Naruto's eyes that he wasn't lying. Gamabunta was completely destroyed. The blonde turned to Sakura and said, "Now then, once more." He held out his hand and Sakura reluctantly handed him the hoverboard, saying, "All of these things are the products of a past accomplishment of our species." Before pressing a few buttons and letting it fall to where it was hovering a foot above the ground with a soft hum, Naruto flipped the object over twice in his hand. "We've been through 7 golden ages already in this period. The ninja one is one of our weaker ones," he said. With derisive expressions on their faces, the eyebrows of several council members shot upward. Naruto simply grinned. "Something happened while I was training. I stumbled upon a preserved spot filled with these products of the past, and that includes those living machines you saw earlier. I studied there and trained. I mean, come on. It was freaking awesome. I'd have to be a fucking dumbass not to take advantage of that. I learned so much. I gotta tell y'all, Iruka's history lessons suck compared to that. But then again, they sucked anyway, heh. Anyway, we're an old species. Older than our history books tell us. Way older. Hell, we existed before the Biju did. We're probably the reason the Biju exist. We have that kind of potential. And the world's bloodline limits. Hey, forget all the crap you were taught. When they first started appearing, the holders were treated like Jinchuriki. That's right, Hyuga. Your ancestors were not those of some superior royal family or some junk. They called the early blood limit users mutants, perversions of nature, and other derogatory names. No way, one council member uttered. Yes way, Naruto said, gently pushing the hoverboard until it glided over to Sakura, who gazed at it wide-eyed before nodding and grinning. Luckily, the humans and the mutants finally learned to get along, and the blood limits stabilized and began to become repetitive in family lines. Wait, a second council member said. If what you say is true, then why is there no history of it? If our ancestors were really as great as you claim, then we should really have some sort of evidence, and for that matter, if what you say is true, then it is imperative you reveal to us the location of this preserved spot so that we may secure it in case an enemy gets a hold of it. Naruto turned to face the middle-aged council member, who appeared conceited but reasonably sensible. The man clearly felt that only Konoha should have access to such potent artifacts, which is why he didn't like what Naruto had described being left unguarded. That reasoning made sense to Naruto. But no can do on that second one. That spot was given to me, and it will be up to me to decide on what to do with it and who gets what. Naruto meant each and every word. They wanted to take the first thing that was actually his. Screw that nonsense. Naruto refused to budge despite the council's symphony of demands and arguments for the boy to take back what he had just said. Nah. Not now. If it weren't for one thing, they would have started shouting and making threats. And that was Sarutobi leaping from his seat and yelling, "Shut the freaking fuck up, you bunch of babblin' baboons," while using a demon head jutsu enhanced by chakra. Shuttled together, Naruto, Sasuke, Shikamaru, and Sakura were so overcome by their own terror at the Hokage that they forgot everything else. The council also remained silent. Now then, the Hokage said, turning to face Naruto. While I can understand your position and your desire to keep what is yours, you must also understand that news of you is already spreading. This spot you speak of, everybody and their mama is gonna be here looking for it. Naruto nodded, instantly overcoming the shock of fear. The image of that sentinel dancing in Sarutobi's mind, he only needed to see Naruto's shining eyes to be satisfied. Yeah, I know it won't stay a secret for much longer, but you don't need to worry. The area is very well protected. When Naruto said, please keep your pants on, guys. I do plan to help out the village. Hey, our medical facilities especially are about to get one hell of a freaking boost. Can I go now, old man? The council members appeared to be about to say something else. Sarutobi laughed and waved dismissively. Naruto smiled before turning to face the other three genin present. Come on, he said. He gave the toad Sonny a scowl. The four genin were out of the room. Your frog had 3 days to live. Sarutobi rubbed his temples and sighed. He mumbled, I'm way too old for this crap. Another council member remarked, Hokage. Sama, you forgot to promote him and the Nara boy. Sonova. Oh, never mind, I'll promote the some other time. Drops of sweat were everywhere. One thing became clear as Naruto, Sakura, Shikamaru, and Sasuke moved through the village. People were staring at Naruto as if he were a human, similar to a hero. At first, the blonde was taken aback when a woman approached him, kissed him on the lips, and thanked him several times for his actions during the invasion before rushing away and disappearing into the crowd. Aside from her flawless curves and angelic face, she was also a fine-ass woman. Even if she worked in the red light district, Naruto didn't give a damn. Someone had just kissed him. It's an incredible experience to witness that. The only thing Sasuke did when he saw that was to slightly widen his eyes. Naruto was silently followed by the three genin as they made their way to his house. They were all deep in contemplation. As they gathered around the blonde, shaking his hand, giving him pats on the back, and calling him the Technin, they paid little attention to the other people. Though it wasn't their primary concern, they were both happy that the boy had finally had his moment of fame. Sakura spoke to Naruto about a few things, mostly regarding the fact that he had slapped her ass. That caused a slight heating of her face, but it was impossible to tell if it was anger. The other was just plain interest. She marveled at the technology in the seemingly simple slab of metal as the hoverboard was strapped to her back once more. She desired to see more of his possessions. She was eager to find out. Shikamaru was comparable. Only the weapons he had used against Neji and, of course, the Shukaku pawning were visible to him. Furthermore, based on his observations of Sasuke, he was unable to witness a lot of things. Despite his laziness, he is still a genius, and brilliant people cannot deny the value of their overactive brains. It simply wasn't a genetic trait or, for that matter, a natural law they could violate. Sasuke desired authority. That wave motion cannon was what he desired. Orochimaru, screw you. Sasuke would stay his Uchiha ass right in Konoha to obtain Naruto's weapons, magic, and whatever the fuck else he had under his belt if he was willing to share them with him. Hell, he would never again refer to Naruto as a Dobi. He would teach him all of his jutsu skills. About 3 hours ago, Sasuke discovered an opportunity in Naruto that he had never considered. Then comes the fucking Kyuubi. Orochimaru, screw you, the place to be is Naruto. After a few minutes, the four reached Naruto's dilapidated apartment and watched as the blonde tinkled with the door and swung it in. They followed the blonde in, feeling a surge of excitement and anticipation. Blonde, began said, a light. He gestured to Sakura and Sasuke and said, since you two are my teammates, adding, and you're too fucking smart for your own good, grinning at Shikamaru. I'll give ya guys the full rundown on what went down, he said. But until I'm ready to tell anyone, you can't tell anyone. You understand? 3 nods were given, one of which was noticeably impatient. With a smile, Naruto reached for his scroll.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.